You too, y'all are you are retarded. You are retarded.
Damn, y'all dumb.
Retarded. Damn, y'all dumb. Diddy dum 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 dum. Diddy dum 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 dum. You are retarded. You are retarded.
Oh me, oh my, damn, y'all dumb.
We invoke the 25th Amendment. Who are you? Who? No one knows, but you still scream it like it matters. We laugh, you cry, you scream, life shattered. Ready? All at once, we together, make it run. Sticky alcohol, flood the V. Watch it catch like a drum.
Damn, y'all dumb.
We invoke what? 25th Amendment. Who you be? Who? Nobody present. Ready? Go now. We together, make it run. Sticky alcohol, yeah, and we bend it till it's done. Oh me, oh my.
No, this is a special occasion.
Countdown.
3, 2, 1.
You are retarded. You are
Damn, yo,
you are retarded. You are
damn, yo,
you are retarded.
you're retarded. Damn, yo,
You are retarded. You are
damn, yo,
Wow. What's up, everybody? How you doing? My name's Jim, and I'm here to tell you some news. What's going on? It's a little early. I had to start early, so I'm a little discombobulated because Rob ended before 2 hours. Even that, it usually goes about 2.5 hours, 2:15, something like that. So it was like a real quick thing. I had to hurry up and start. So sorry. How's everybody doing tonight? I want to thank everybody who came over from Rob, and please ask you, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing. I try to do these shows every night. A couple nights a week, I start early to catch a raid from Rob, if possible. And the way the show works is we do about 2 hours, 2.5 hours, somewhere between there, 2.5 hours. Unless we hit our goal, which we have a rolling goal on the show. And the way it works is for every $100 in total that comes in and super chats, Rumble rants, gifted memberships, Cash App, PayPal, Coffee, Ko-Fi, super tips, locals, coins, Kick and Twitch memberships, also gifting memberships on Rumble and YouTube, all that stuff are becoming members. We add it all up and we hit 100. We add an additional hour to the show, and then every $100 that comes in, every additional 100 is another extra hour to the show. So the show could be 2 hours long. It could be 3 hours long. It could be any anything really. It could be 4 hours, 6, 8, 10. That's how we like to go here, and then that's how that works. And I'm trying to get the goal set up right now on YouTube, and it's really kicking my butt right here. All right, there we go. And also, when we hit $50, we activate Bellavision for the evening. Okay, I got that started. And this is what Bellavision looks like right there. There she is sleeping. And let me fix the camera there because she's like really out of it today. Like, oh man. She's got her dolly and everything, but you can see she's like got her blanket all curled up in a ball and laying on it right now. But that's Bellavision. That gets activated when it hit 50. Or if somebody is so generous that they donate $25 or greater in an individual donation, then we automatically activate Bellavision. You know, that could be like a $25 Cash App or PayPal. It could be a super chat, a Rumble rant. It could be also 5 gifted memberships on YouTube or Rumble would automatically activate Bellavision for the evening. All right. Alrighty then. Let's do this. And let's get into the first story of the... Well, let's say hi to everybody. Right on Gal says, we need Bellicam. It says, you're early squirrely tonight. Yes, well, I'm here. There's so many people here tonight. I don't know if I have time. Let's see. Nero's here. Miss Hacker, Sneaky Sean. Audrey's here. Nice off-ramp for Trump to sleek away. Biggest problem? Well, we'll see. HJ Remy, what's up? Great to see you. Yes, Robert Gruler, Grob Gavea, rated to stream. It's greatly appreciated. Awesome. Miss Hacker's here. Gundam's here. What's up, Gundam? Brendan. Brenda Ty. Great to see you. Awesome. This is just me again and again. First time here. Are the pukers included in every stream? No, that was just a creepy video I saw that was running about 2 minutes. I thought it would give me time to get things set up. I guess I sort of did. Yes, man, we early. Boom shakalaka. Awesome to see you. Mama Pillow. Great to see you. Karen O, you too. Right on Gal. All right. OTR Smokehouse, goodness. Hey, a happy Florida gal, girl. What's up? Great to see you. All right, so let's get some stories going. What do you say? Let's get some stories going today. All right. What do you guys know? The U.S. stock. What is happening? What is happening? Why am I having issues here? U.S. stock market highlights. The Dow jumps 1,300 points today on the news of the ceasefire. Yeah. U.S. stock market highlights. Oil prices dropped sharply, and the West Texas Intermediate crude futures falling more than 16% to settle at $94. So $94 a barrel, marking their biggest one-day decline since April 2020. That is crazy, right? A big. Hey, what's up, Crimson King? Good to see you. Jody, great to see you too. Awesome. U.S. stocks surged on Wednesday after President Trump suspended attacks for 2 weeks, pausing the 5-week conflict that had shut a key waterway for global energy supplies. The Dow Jones Industrial Average jumped more than 1,300 points to 2.85%, so almost 3%. What's up with Soleimani's niece trying to escape ICE custody? Over under on how soon Iran will violate the ceasefire. Well, technically, Iran's already violated the ceasefire, and we're going to get into that. There was already some stuff that's happened, and they're accusing Israel of violating the ceasefire. So we're gonna talk about all this stuff. We're gonna get into it. I say the ceasefire is having Hamlet moments. It's possible. It's quite possible. Like, I don't know. Like, I mean, if I'm going to be completely 100% honest with you guys, I don't see this working out because unless Iran is like a leopard that can change its spots, and this isn't just a ploy for them to rearm and do things, because that's all they've ever done in the past is try to make stuff and then do other crap. And I got a whole bunch of stories lined up. We're going to talk about all the stuff, but this one, a lot of people were worried about oil and about other stuff. So I thought I would cover this first. Hey, what's up, Star Wars Marvel Purist? Great to see you. Will Call Magic is here too. Awesome. None of your business. Hey, what's up? Great to see you. So oil prices dropped sharply with the West Texas Intermediate falling more than 16%. Yep. And Brent crude declined about 13% to close at 94.75. So that's pretty good. All right. This is from Reuters, which I have to use an archive for Reuters because they're real weird. Earl of Sandwich? I don't know. Hit that like button. Yeah, what's up? Jason Fisher. Hey, my guess is it will sputter along and eventually go into effect when all the players are read in. Well, so I think it's took hold now, but I'm not 100%. I haven't seen anything saying that like right after it was supposed to go in effect, there was some missiles launched out and stuff like that, and that could just be that the word didn't get passed down. Or it could be Iran playing games saying, go ahead, fire these off, and then we can just claim that we didn't know about it. So stock futures jumped on Wednesday as investors breathed a sigh of relief, and the U.S. and Iran agreed to a 2-week ceasefire. The announcement came late Tuesday, hours before Trump's deadline, after which he said the U.S. would inflict devastating attacks on Iran's civilian infrastructure if they did not reopen the Strait of Hormuz. The rally was visible across global asset classes. Equity indexes in major Asian and European markets shot up between 4 to 5%, while crude prices rolled 16% to near $90 a barrel, and the dollar, which has been a safe haven interest over the past month, fell 1% against the yen. Investors have been navigating the ebb and flow of the conflict, and that has extended over to a month, as Trump suggested an earlier end to the war at several times, while on the flip side, Iran has denied all reports of negotiations. The worry is that the prolonged conflict and soaring energy costs could weigh on economic growth and complicate the Federal Reserve's monetary policy path. March was the benchmark S&P's biggest monthly fall in a year. Short-term Treasury bond yields, a reflection of the interest rate expectations, slipped on Wednesday, and interest rate futures suggest investors expect the Fed to keep borrowing costs unchanged this year, according to LSEG compiled data. Well, I have a report from the Fed minutes, from the latest Fed minutes that actually, we're going to get into it, that say that they're going to make another rate cut, at least one this year, that they plan on it, that there's nothing, that the economy they need to do another rate cut. So before the war, traders had been betting on at least a 25 basis point interest rate cuts this year, but at one point last month, inflation concerns had them wager on a potential rate hike. The Dow minis were up 1,083 or 2.3%. The S&P 500 minis were up 168 points. Futures tracking the rate-sensitive Russell 2000 jumped 3.4%. So that's some good stuff. All right. And then now we're going to talk about some war stuff. All right, stuff about directly about the stuff. So JD Vance is going to lead the delegation to Islamabad, Pakistan, for direct talks with the Iranians. All right, with direct talks. What? Why am I showing prayer times? What? Get this out of here with the prayer times. What are you doing to me? What are you doing to me? What are you doing to me? God, I got to find a different place to get this story because I don't want prayer times. That's just nuts. I got to open a few more tabs here. I didn't have enough open to start the show. You can see that's an issue. All right. We got a lot of stories tonight. We're going to talk about, I'll just give you a quick overview. We're going to talk about this. JD Vance is going to lead the negotiations. Then JD Vance is saying that Trump is very impatient about this ceasefire thing if it doesn't hold. And that Israel has also agreed to the 2-week U.S.-Iran ceasefire agreement. And then we also have Trump says he's considering a joint venture with Iran for the Strait of Hormuz to issue tolls so that the U.S. and Iran are going to team up to charge tolls to pass through the Strait of Hormuz, which I don't know. I mean, to me, you know, and then Iran is accusing Israel of using the U.S. of violating the ceasefire. And the U.S. says Iran ceasefire doesn't apply to Lebanon. And then there was some news saying that Iran has stopped some oil tankers coming out of the Strait of Hormuz, but Trump saying, no, that's not true. They're reporting that that's not happening. And then Senator Schumer is saying the Senate is going to come back next week and vote on a war powers resolution. And then some 95-year-old demon rat in the House has filed articles of impeachment against President Trump. And also we have some very strange betting patterns on Polymarket and oil futures, upwards of almost $1 billion being wagered on those markets. So then we got some other stories, which I don't know if we'll get to, like the IAEA says that they need $60 billion to counter China's control on rare earth metals, or rare earth elements, and then Indiana governor suspends the gas tax for 30 days. And then the story about the Fed officials foresee at least one rate cut this year, despite the war impacts. Pam Bondi will not be testifying before the House. The California Supreme Court has stepped in and issued a pause on the ballot counting and the election investigation being performed by the sheriff of Orange County, I believe, right? It's Orange County. And we also have Missouri has enacted a law allowing people to get divorced even while the wife is pregnant, which I didn't know that was illegal. And then the final story, if we make it there this evening, is the ketamine queen of Los Angeles was sentenced to 15 years in the Matthew Perry death investigation. So that's all the stories I have lined up thus far. Plus, I got a whole bunch of stuff on X that we can get to. So, all right. Is Lebanon part of the agreement? Well, Iran says yes. The U.S. says no. No, Lebanon was excluded from what I've seen. Well, we refinanced last week and cut 7 years, and they're still saving over 100 a month. Well, hopefully the rates, Mohammed Jihad, yes. We just checked Israeli Defense Warning app. Last alert was 9 hours ago. Let me guess, Al Green. No. It's like a 95-year-old guy from Connecticut who has a very young challenger. Late for an early start. Yes, it was an extra early start. Pam already said enough, nothing. Yeah. Those tour alerts look like Hezbollah, not Iran. Well, I think that's why they were hitting Lebanon, because of those attacks. So the White House says Vice President J.D. Vance will lead the U.S. delegation to Islamabad for Iran talks on Saturday. Hey, what's up, Eastwind Farms? Great to see you. Awesome. Talks are going to be focused on ceasefire terms, tariffs, and sanctions relief amid a fragile regional tensions. There's J.D. Vance, that's Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner. The U.S. team will be led by J.D. Vance, include Witkoff and Kushner. Iran's delegation expected to be led by Parliament Speaker Bagher Kwalibaf and Abbas Araghchi. And the United States President Donald Trump is dispatching his Iran negotiating team, led by J.D. Vance, to Pakistan. Like, I'd be a little worried about going to Pakistan. Personally, I hope they have enough security, because Pakistan can get kind of spicy. Iran, reeling from the loss of several veteran political leaders in the ongoing conflict, is expected to be represented by Parliament Speaker and former Revolutionary Guards Commander Mohammed Bagher Kwalibaf, along with Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi. Domo arigato, Mr. Robato. White House Press Secretary Caitlin Levitt, said President Trump will continue discussions with Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu on the possibility of including Lebanon in an Iran ceasefire deal. Any military peeps in the chat? There's usually a bunch. This will continue to be discussed between the President, Prime Minister Netanyahu, the United States, Israel, and all parties involved. The announcement comes as relief over the U.S.-Iran truce was tempered by renewed regional violence. Israel launched its heaviest strikes yet on Lebanon, while Iran targeted Gulf neighbors' oil facilities. Yeah, Caitlin. I don't know why. I don't know why I said Catherine. I don't know. I can't get it any bigger because of this stupid prayer thing. Global financial markets responded positively to the ceasefire. We covered that story. Brent crude surged more than 50% since the outbreak, fell 14%, while stocks jumped to one-month highs. Trump confirmed that the United States will work closely with Iran, including discussions on tariffs and sanction relief, followed by the announcement of a 2-week ceasefire brokered by Pakistan. Is Barnes Insider's accurate that Trump's losing his marbles? We'll see president musical chairs with JD. No. Barnes is losing his mind. Trump, no. There's a really good story about a bunch of stuff, which I don't know if it's believable, from the New York Times. I wasn't going to really cover it because Branca and someone else covered it. So I was like, do I really want to just cover the same? It isn't Caitlin, is it? I think it's Caitlin. Isn't it Caitlin? What's her name? Caitlin Levitt, which I thought it was. I didn't think it was Caitlin Levitt. I thought it was something else. Only the earth gets bigger, Jim. You know this. I know it's growing. President Trump confirmed this So we are and we will be talking tariffs and sanctions relief with Iran, Trump said, emphasizing that continued cooperation on key issues despite the initial relief. Significant disagreements remain unresolved, while with both sides maintaining competing demands for a comprehensive peace deal. It's Caroline Levitt. That's what I thought it was, Caroline. That's why when I saw, why does it say Caitlin there? So it says Caitlin in the story, and I knew that's what threw me off because I thought it was Catherine, Caroline, something like that. And I don't know, it threw me off. It's Caroline Levitt, not Caitlin. Okay. So in a Truth Social post, the United States will work closely with Iran, which we have determined has gone through what would be very productive regime change. There will be no enrichment of uranium, and the United States will, working with Iran, dig up and remove all the deeply buried B-2 bombers, nuclear dust. And nothing has been touched from the date of attack. Many of the 15 points have already been agreed to. He added that any country supplying military weapons to Iran will face an immediate 50% tariff on goods sold to the United States with no exceptions. So, did you hear the Strait of Hormuz is closed again? I heard the reports. We'll talk about it. And according to the Trump administration, that's not true. It's fake news. So I don't know. Because the news can't get anything right. Yeah. When does Artemis 2 splash down? I don't know. I thought it was this weekend, Saturday or Sunday. I'm going to make a joke. Christy Nome is unaware of her husband's fetishes. Apparently, he didn't know him very well. That's funny. Didn't know him very well. That's a good one. While U.S. and Israeli attacks paused against Iran, Israel escalated its operations against Hezbollah in Lebanon. Prime Minister Netanyahu clarified that the ceasefire doesn't cover Hezbollah, stating Israel will continue to strike them. Well, if Israel is going to do shit that's going to cause a problem, then we're going to have to reassess our working relationship, I would say. You know what I mean? Friday night splashdown. Okay. Iran's Tasman news agency cited a source warning that Iran could withdraw from the ceasefire if attacks on Lebanon continue. Lebanon's civil defense reported 254 deaths on Wednesday from Israeli strikes, with 91 casualties in Beirut alone. Residents say some attacks were carried out without proper evacuation warnings. Oh, wow. Because usually they do, don't they? They tell people to get out of the building. Pakistan's Minister Shahbaz Sharif announced that Iran and U.S., along with their allies, have agreed to an immediate ceasefire. He invited both the U.S. and Iranian delegations to Islamabad on Friday, April 10th, to negotiate a conclusive agreement to settle all the outstanding disputes. Trump agreed to a 2-week ceasefire less than 2 hours before the deadline he had set for Tehran to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. So that is that with that. And this is just from K. This is another news site. It says Vance to travel to Pakistan for peace talks amid fragile Iran ceasefire. So let's see what he has to say. Is it going to be an ad? You going to give me an ad? Yeah, it's an ad I can't skip. Wow, that's just great. So Vance will join Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner. And you see, I have DuckDuckGo. Look at this. Oh, look, it's you're blocked from Facebook because they're using the thing from DuckDuckGo, but it's not blocking this ad. Like, what is it doing? What is this ad blocker doing? What is this ad blocker doing? If it's not blocking this ad, but it's blocking this.
The White House briefing today, taking reporters on the closing of the Straits of Hormuz, and that was the topic most of the session. Keep in mind, the market then closed, the strait closed just minutes before the briefing began. That led to questions about the stability of that ceasefire deal with Iran, as keeping it open was one of the president's key demands. Scripps News senior White House reporter and producer Jacob Gartenschwartz was inside the briefing room today, and he's live now on the North Lawn. And Jacob, there has been a lot of confusion about the ceasefire in just the past 24 hours. Tell us what you're hearing now about the current situation.
Yeah, good evening, Del. Well, as this first full day with this ceasefire in place draws to a close, there are still a lot of unanswered questions. What the ceasefire covers, what steps Iran must take to remain in compliance, how Israel factors into all of it. But let's start with what we do know. Last night around 6:45 p.m., President Trump announced that both the United States and Iran had agreed to a temporary 2-week ceasefire to stave off his threat, in his own words, to end the Iranian civil civilization. Now, Pakistan's prime minister was originally the one who proposed this 2-week ceasefire, at least publicly. Pakistan, of course, serving as a key mediator between the U.S. and Iran throughout this conflict. And when the Pakistan's prime minister, announced the deal in his own post, he said that it included, quote, an immediate ceasefire everywhere, including Lebanon and elsewhere. Despite that, we have seen Israel continue to bomb Lebanon throughout last night and into today. IDF officials claiming that they are targeting Hezbollah and other Iran-backed groups in the region, though Iran and, of course, Lebanese officials not particularly pleased with those continued strikes. Now, the White House claims that Lebanon was never actually covered by this ceasefire agreement and that Israel is free to continue what it's doing as it wishes. They also say that Iran has agreed to a number of terms, abandoning its plan to pursue nuclear weapons, turning over any enriched uranium that it already has in its possession, and, as you noted, opening the Strait of Hormuz. Yet state media there reporting that that strait remains closed in part due to Israel's continuous attacks on Lebanon. Officials throughout the day posting various comments quite critical of the current situation. The foreign minister saying that the United States has a choice, quote, ceasefire or continued war via Israel. It cannot have both. Another senior Iranian official said to be among those who have been directly involved in these negotiations, the Speaker of Iran's parliament, pointing to 3 alleged violations of the ceasefire in just these first 24 hours. Of course, Israel's continued strikes on Lebanon, reports of a drone entering Iranian airspace, no understanding at this point at all whose drone that was, where it came from, and also Iran's inability to continue pursuing nuclear enrichment, something that Iran claims it wants to do for civilian energy purposes. Now, that leader's statement concluding, quote,
that's a good question, Pat Hacker. Is Israel part of the negotiations? No, probably. I mean, like, the bottom line is Israel's going to have to do whatever the U.S. tells them to do. If we tell them to stop, they're going to have to stop. Otherwise, they don't have a choice. If they keep going, then, things might have to happen. So that's totally up to them. If they want to play games and not listen, they don't get to set terms. That's not how this works. So, yay, Bella, yeah. Israel doesn't plan on stopping. Well, they don't have a fucking choice because they're going to have a hard time. Wow, I didn't button my shirt. They're going to have a hard time intercepting incoming missiles if they don't have anything to intercept them with. So, we pay for it. Yeah. I heard they are not. Yeah, I heard they're not part of negotiations. It's just Israel was part of the ceasefire. You know how well that went. Yeah, I know. I have it. I have the story. Like, Israel now says that, but this is a disagreement. It's like, it's a disagreement about whether or not Lebanon is included in the ceasefire. So we'll see.
The basis on which to negotiate has been openly and clearly violated even before the official negotiations began. In such situations, a bilateral ceasefire or negotiations is unreasonable. This is just a few days before Vice President J.D. Vance was set
to NASCAR Mo, great to see you.
For further negotiations with Iranian officials directly. The Vice President asked earlier today about all of this, about the Lebanon factor and where the ceasefire stands. Here's what he had to say.
Look, if Iran wants to let this negotiation fall apart in a conflict where they were getting hammered over Lebanon, which has nothing to do with them and which the United States never once said was part of the ceasefire, that's ultimately their choice. We think that would be dumb, but that's their choice.
Those remarks from the vice president, as we believe this trip to Islamabad for the talks set to begin Saturday are still on, though again, these statements from Iranian officials calling that into question. We have asked the White House multiple times this afternoon to respond to the Iranian claims, whether these negotiations will still take place this weekend. At this point, radio silence. So.
All right. Okay. Yeah, so that's going on. So they're going to have these talks. Axios just says that Vance to lead the U.S. delegation at peace talks with Iran and Islamabad. They'll head up to negotiations. Why it matters. It's the highest level meeting between the U.S. and Iran since 1979. I mean, this is the highest level meeting between any U.S. person, like a U.S. official and Iran, anybody from Iran since 79. And ceasefire negotiations hit a crucial tipping point that could lead to resumption and escalation of the war if the high stakes talks fail. Yes, Tom Bravo, I am early. I was planning on starting just like 3 minutes ago, but I had to start early because Rob ended and I had to pick up the raid. That's just how it goes. So I had to go early. And America First says, Israel wants to go until the end of it all. That means the world. Well, they're going to have a hard time going in alone. This will be the most significant and challenging mission in Vance's political career, testing his line of trying to avoid war with Iran and preferring diplomacy as a way to reach a deal. So let's see if this works out. It's going to make JD Vance look really good. Obviously, there's going to be a bunch of people trying to throw sand in there and try to stop it. The Strait is Iran's only bargaining chip. It is. It's their only bargaining chip. But it could be taken away from them if they really wanted to. I mean, you could actually make it so that they couldn't stop the Strait if you really went balls to the wall and wanted to really go. I mean, I have not seen any. My personal opinion is I have not seen any shock and awe at all. I haven't seen it. It seems just like we did this strikes. They kept saying tomorrow's going to be the biggest day. I don't know. I don't know. I haven't seen it. I haven't seen any of the videos. I haven't seen any of the pictures. I haven't seen the destruction. I don't know. Hey, Lynn's here. What's up? Got the message you were on. Thank you. So early. That's right. So early. Yes. That's right. 280 watch and less than 40 likes. Yes. Please hit the like button. It helps push it out. It really does. That's right, Cesium Cat. Hit the like button. So Vance said in Budapest on Wednesday that the president is impatient to make progress with Iran and stressed that if Iranian officials don't engage in good faith, they're going to find out what President Trump is not messing around with. Is not one to mess around with. Levitt and Trump advisor's son-in-law, Jared Kushner. Levitt said, Trump advisor and son-in-law, Jared Kushner, and White House envoy Witkoff will also participate in the negotiations. Yeah. Iranian state media reports that the parliament speaker is expected to lead Tehran's delegation. And the state of play, Israel airstrikes in Lebanon generated harsh condemnation from Tehran and claims that it is a breach of the ceasefire. Aragachi hinted on X that Tehran could abandon the ceasefire if the strikes continue. No shock and awe because Iran has no internet, so it said. Also, that's why we didn't. But there should still be gun cam footage from the planes, and also all of the missiles and bombs have a camera, so they're watching the feed. So that should be there. You should be able to watch it coming in. Iran cut off the internet. Hey, what's up, Snarf? Great to see you. So the ceasefire terms are clear and explicit. The U.S. must choose ceasefire or continue war via Israel. Cannot have both. They said the world sees the massacre in Lebanon. The ball's in the U.S. court, and the world is watching whether it will act on its commitments. A senior American official said the U.S. is not currently concerned that the strikes in Lebanon will jeopardize the negotiations. Levitt told reporters it's been relayed to all parties that Lebanon is part of the ceasefire agreement. So Trump and Bibi Netanyahu would continue to discuss this, but for now, Lebanon is not included. So it sounds like maybe this might be, and this is just my opinion, reading between the lines, that maybe Bibi Netanyahu and Israel weren't supposed to do this, but they don't want to throw them under the bus, so they're just saying, oh, it wasn't really included. So I don't know. kind of seems like, because I remember the 10-point plan that they said they were said to stop attacking their other people in the region. So you are so early. Where's my Bella? Bella is here, but she's still waiting. I'm still holding her hostage for the the way it works. She doesn't get on the pole for free. Seems like there's two different Irans here. It does. I mean, there is a possibility that this might work out because maybe the people that are in charge now aren't as extreme. Israel doesn't care about the peace plan. Well, they should start caring. They really should. We might have some surprise guests if my grandsons decide to burst into the room. No one has paid Bella's ransom yet. Yeah. In a series of truth posts on Wednesday, Trump wrote the 10-point plan published and claimed were basis for negotiations were different than the 10 that were given to the U.S. and would be discussed behind closed doors. These are the points that are the basis for which we agreed to a ceasefire. It's something that is reasonable and easily dispensed with. In a briefing with reporters, Levitt confirmed Axios reporting that the 10-point counterproposal that Iran set on Monday was rejected and later amended and redrafted by the mediators in a way to be workable and aligned with the White House's 15-point proposal. She claimed Tehran's publicly about the issues it has agreed to is very different from what they said privately. One example she gave is the highly enriched uranium stockpile. We were given indications that they will turn over the enriched uranium. On the other side, Ghalibaf said 3 out of the 10 clauses in the framework that the U.S. and Tehran have agreed to have been violated, and a bilateral ceasefire negotiations is unreasonable. He said the first violation was regarding the ceasefire in Lebanon, which was a commitment Pakistan's prime minister had mentioned in his statement announcing the ceasefire. Ghalibaf claimed that the second violation was the entry of a drone into Iranian airspace. That third was Trump's statement that denies Iran's right to enrichment, which was included in the 6th clause of the framework. So if they're going to insist on enrichment, then this ain't going to work. Hey, look at this. We got a 5 for Bella. Thank you. With that $5, that means we are now just 95 away from adding a first additional hour to the show and only 45 away from Bellavision. So thank you so much for that 5. How can you deal with terrorists? You can't. You can't never deal with terrorists. So Raz Zimit, director of Iran Program for Institute of National Security Studies in Tel Aviv, tells Axios that the primary concern is the extent to which the upcoming talks will address the nuclear issue. There are 3 minimum requirements that must be met: the removal of the 60% enriched uranium from Iran, the dilution of the 20% enriched material to a low level, and the suspension of uranium enrichment for as many years as possible. If these demands, some of which Iran rejected before the war, are accepted, the war can end with at least one significant achievement. If the war ends with these nuclear capabilities still in Iran, it would constitute a major failure, which I agree with. If you basically are in the same position you were before the start of the war, it just seems like we wasted a whole bunch of money for nothing. I will agree with that. This is now from Straight Times, which is in Indonesia. It says, Vance says Trump is impatient about the progress on Iran. It says Trump is impatient about making progress towards ending the Iran war. Yeah, he says Gundam Zeg has a good point here. He says the only way to deal with terrorists is capitulation, buy off or bury. Well, here's the problem. If you capitulate to terrorists, you're just going to have to continue to capitulate and continue to capitulate and continue to capitulate. So you can't ever buy them off because you're just going to have to keep buying them off or buying them off or buying them off. So, I mean, the only true way to end a terrorist problem is to bury them. And that's the bottom line. That's the only way to ever solve it. The president has told me, and he's told the entire negotiating team, Secretary of State, and Special Envoy, he said, go and work in good faith to come to an agreement. He's impatient to make good progress. He has told us to negotiate in good faith, and I think if they negotiate in good faith, we might be able to find a deal. But that's a big if, and ultimately it's up to the Iranians how they negotiate. I hope they make the right decision. So the United States and Iran have a 2-week ceasefire brokered by Pakistan, potentially halting a 6-week-old war that has killed thousands and spread across the Middle East and caused unprecedented disruption to the world energy supplies. So, And this story says J.D. Vance warns Iran not to test Trump's patience on the fragile ceasefire agreement. We've got rope. Trump thought this would be easy and the IRGC would be crumbling. He was wrong. I don't know if, I mean, it depends on what he really thought was the goal. If the goal of this entire thing was just to get rid of get them to get rid of their nuclear stuff and to get, to take down their ballistic missiles. Maybe to take down their ballistic missile stock and try to get them to stop building so many ballistic missiles or something. Maybe it'll work. I don't know. I mean, if someone thought the goal was to make the complete, regime change with a new government and stuff like that, I mean, you're not going to do that without forces on the ground. And, the story is that we gave a bunch of arms to the Kurds to try to get them into Iran and that the Kurds stole them. So if that's true, I mean, the Kurds, I could see why they would, because the Kurds have been screwed over for 30 some odd years now by the West, first with George H.W. Bush, then Clinton, then W. Bush, and Kurds have been screwed repeatedly. So maybe they were like, we're not going to do this. We're just going to keep them so we can defend ourselves. What's it say? Another Canadian conservative just switched to liberals. Carney's on track to a majority. Well, Afghanistan's and Pakistan's coming into Iran. Could be. So J.D. Vance, speaking at the Matthias Corvinus Collegium in Budapest on Wednesday, described the ceasefire that the U.S. has reached as fragile. Vance told the audience he was up very late last night working on the agreement between Iran and the United States. He said that Iran agreed to allow ships to pass the strait, and the United States as its allies agreed to stop attacks. On the basis of this fragile truce we have, it's now 8 to 12 hours old. He said the United States has already achieved its military objectives. What the president set out to do was to decimate why do they keep using decimate? Because decimate only means to take it down a tenth or take it down to a tenth or something like that. Tom Bravo says nothing worse than getting screwed without any loving. That's right. Will the EU successfully remove Orban? I don't see how they could. I mean, they might try to pull some shenanigans, but he seems popular. I don't know. Adding that Trump said he issued an ultimatum to open the straits and stop trying to hold the world's economy hostage. Vance cautioned that the agreement remains uncertain, noting divisions over it within Iran's leadership. He added Trump has directed his team to negotiate in good faith. So Vance's Iran comments came during a wide conversation at the MCC. And he called the tendencies of Western academia to try to destroy the foundations of Western civilization. Vance framed American university reform in similar terms, saying the Trump administration had ended race-based admission practices that he called a violation of the American Constitution and a violation of basic morality. On Europe broadly, Vance was sharply critical of the continent's energy policy, singling out the United Kingdom. UK families are paying 4 times, 5 times, 6 times what the United States citizens are paying for electricity. Foreign influence in Orban. Vance returned to the theme he struck on the previous day on a campaign appearance for Orban at Budapest Sports Stadium, casting the European Union as an anti-democratic force meddling in Hungarian affairs. He argued that the EU pressure on Hungary constitutes foreign interference while his own presence does not. He said the European Union has threatened to withhold billions of dollars from Hungary, while the United States has not made such threats. He praised Orban as uniquely constructive in peace negotiations between Russia and Ukraine. I've sat in the private meetings with Victor where he has very, very capably summed up the Ukrainian position. This is what the Ukrainians care about. This is what the Russians care about. He said it's two sides negotiating positions. They've gotten closer and closer together, and he acknowledged a final settlement remains out of reach. In closing the forum, Vance offered advice to the young audience. He urged them to resist discouragement and stay politically engaged. Our civilization was not built overnight. It's not going to be saved overnight, he said. Stay involved, be patient, and don't let disappointment turn you to checking out of the system entirely. Yeah. What's to believe? I don't know what's to believe. I don't know what's to believe. I just read the stories and, I try to see what I think it is. I could be wrong. And this is from Al Jazeera. Says Vance warns that Iran ceasefire hinges on good faith talks. And this is from the New York Post. J.D. Vance calls the Iran ceasefire a fragile truce as the regime unleashes attacks on Gulf states.
What the president set out to do was decimate the Iranian military, decimate their ability to wage conventional war. And that military objective, as the president said yesterday, as I said yesterday, has been achieved. What the president did is he basically issued an ultimatum to the Iranians. He said, open up the straits, stop trying to hold the world's economy hostage, and we'll engage in a ceasefire. And that's exactly the agreement that we came to last night. This is a fragile truce. You have people who clearly want to come to the negotiating table and work with us to find a good deal. And then you have people who are lying about even the fragile truce that we've already struck. If the Iranians are willing, in good faith, to work with us, I think we can make an agreement. If they're going to lie, if they're going to cheat, if they're going to try to prevent even the fragile truce that we've set up from taking place, then they're not going to be happy. They're going to find out that the President of the United States is not one to mess around.
Not one to mess around with. That's what they say. He's not one to mess around with. All right.
The United States government on
we saw this already. So he conceded Wednesday that the 2-week ceasefire is a fragile truce because of the lying Iranian leaders as the regime rained missiles down on Gulf states. Hey, Terry, what's up? Good to see you back again. Good morning from the Philippines. Enter input from different sources here. Vance, who was speaking at an event in Hungary, insisted the deal is possible for Iran negotiated sincerely. He told us, come to the negotiating table, but if Iranians don't do the exact same thing, they're going to find out the president is not one to mess around with. He's impatient, but he's impatient to make progress. He cautioned that the deal the U.S. struck with Iran is being misinterpreted within the Islamic Republic, describing it as a fragile truce. You have people who are lying about even the fragile truce that we've struck. He didn't elaborate further, saying agreement included a ceasefire, plans to negotiate, and the opening of the strait. He cautioned, too, that some parts of the system were approaching the talks constructively, but others were not. Vice President's comments came as Iran fired ballistic missiles and drones on Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and Qatar just hours after the ceasefire deal was secured. Kuwait's interior minister said Iranian drones targeted key civilian infrastructure. Wait a minute. I was told that if you target key civilian infrastructure, that's a war crime. So where are the people screaming that Iran is committing war crimes? I mean, that's all we heard is, oh my God, Trump's going to commit a war crime. Oh my God, Trump's going to commit a war crime. But right now, no one's saying nothing about them targeting key civilian infrastructure, and it's a war crime. Wow, that's just crazy. That's just plain old nuts, ain't it? Nuts a roozy. Anyway, wow. That's just crazy talks, man. Crazy talks. Can't believe it. Wow. Hold on 1 second. Forgot to do something. There we go. What is happening? My mouse isn't working. What is going on? So Saudi Arabian officials said it intercepted 9 drones over the past few hours, with the UAE reporting 17 ballistic missiles and 35 drone attacks earlier Wednesday. Qatar was also targeted with 7 Iranian missiles and several drones. Meanwhile, Israel continued to attack Lebanon with some of the most intense airstrikes in the conflict so far. Netanyahu insisted that the ceasefire didn't include the fight with Hezbollah. Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps suggested it would pull out of the ceasefire if Israel continues its strikes against its allies in Lebanon. The Jewish state also fired at Iran overnight in an effort to take out Tehran's missile launch sites and launchers. Pakistan Prime Minister, whose country helped mediate the ceasefire, is hosting negotiations, called on all sides to end the hostilities. Comes after Trump revealed late Tuesday that the U.S. and Iran have agreed to a 2-week ceasefire. The deal was reached just 2 hours before the deadline. The U.S. was prepared to use extraordinary economic leverage to reach the deal, but Trump had instructed his negotiating team not to use those tools. Well, I mean, you're going to have to use something. You can't just hope and pray. This was updated at 2 o'clock this afternoon. Says ceasefire is threatened as Israel expands Lebanon strikes and Iran closes strait again. So this says Iran closed the Strait of Hormuz again Wednesday in response to Israeli attacks against Hezbollah, casting doubt over whether an already precarious ceasefire to end more than a month of war will hold. Fresh violence threatened to scuttle what J.D. Vance called a fragile deal. Iran aggression towards Lebanon is aggression towards Iran, says General Majid Mousavi, aerospace commander of Iran's Revolutionary Guard. The world sees massacres in Lebanon. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth said American and Israeli forces have achieved a capital V military victory, and the Iranian military no longer pose a significant threat to U.S. forces or the region. See, I think it's a problem if you start making these statements. Then you got no excuse to attack again if they don't do what you want them to do. I don't know. Iran said the deal would allow it to formalize its new practice of charging ships passing through the strait, a crucial transit lane, but the details were not clear, nor was it known whether vessels would feel safe using a channel where ship traffic had resumed. The fate of Iran's missile and nuclear programs, the elimination of which were mega objectives for the U.S. and Israel, are also remained unclear. Well, I mean, if they don't get that knocked out, then I don't see what the purpose is. I don't see how any of this. And then we got this from Vance says U.S.-Iran ceasefire holds for now despite misunderstanding. The ceasefire agreement between the U.S. and Iran is off to a rocky start, with Tehran tightening its grip on the Strait of Hormuz. American First says Iran won't be becoming a peaceful country after what we did. They don't want peace. Also, how is it a victory when we have to engage in a 2-week ceasefire for them to open the strait? I don't know. U.S., however, has not reacted to Iran as of Wednesday afternoon and announced formal talks in Pakistan. Vice President Vance urged Iran to not let a legitimate misunderstanding over whether Lebanon was part of the ceasefire deal derail the fragile agreement. If Iran wants to let this negotiation fall apart in a conflict where they're getting hammered over Lebanon, which has nothing to do with them, and which the United States never once said was part of the ceasefire, that's ultimately their choice. But we think it would be dumb, but that's their choice. The attempt to lower the temperature came after Iran's parliament speaker said the ceasefire agreement to reopen the strait and planned peace talks in Islamabad were unreasonable because the U.S. violated a 10-point agreement. So, and here's the thing. If Iran is just playing games and they're going to keep doing stuff and they're going to try and close the strait, then I think you got to go all in, push all the chips in and go after all the people in charge. Just get rid of them all. That's about the only thing you can do. Either that or you just have to say, okay, what are you going to do? Just admit defeat? Say you lost? I don't know. As the President of the United States has clearly stated, the Iran's 10-point proposal is a workable basis to negotiate. However, 3 clauses of the proposal has been violated so far. So there's things you got to realize too, that some of this stuff is being said for public consumption. It's not what's being said behind closed doors. But then again, how do we know the people we're talking to actually can make these agreements they're making? Like who in Iran has the authority to make a deal? If there's no supreme burrito there. If the supreme burrito's in a coma, who could say yes or no? I mean, that's the bottom line. Okay, what's this? Why is this not working? And this came out. This says Trump says he's considering a joint venture with Iran for the Strait of Hormuz. Oh, this is
of this commander-in-chief. President Trump forged this moment. Iran begged for this ceasefire, and we all know it. As the President truth this morning, a big day for world peace. Iran wants it to happen. They've had enough. Operation Epic Fury was a historic and overwhelming victory on the battlefield. A capital V military victory. By any measure, Epic Fury decimated Iran's military and rendered it combat ineffective for years to come. You see, in less than 40 days, one of our combatant commands, Central Command, CENTCOM, using less than 10% of America's total combat power, dismantled one of the world's largest militaries. The world's leading state sponsor of terrorism proved utterly incapable of defending itself, its people, or its territory. We untied just a fraction of our strength, and Iran suffered a devastating military defeat. Together with our Israeli partners, America's military achieved every single objective on plan, on schedule, exactly as laid out from day one.
So President Trump on Wednesday said he's considering the formation of a joint venture with Iran to set up tolls in the Strait of Hormuz after the Trump administration and Tehran agreed to a 2-week ceasefire deal. ABC News' Jonathan Karl, well, I don't know if I believe him, asked Trump if he approved of Iran's plans to charge vessels a fee for passing through the strait, a key channel through which roughly 20% of the world's oil is transported. I mean, it's an international waterway. You can't. I don't see how you can. I don't see how the. I don't see how anyone would be able to accept this. I really don't. We're thinking of doing as a joint venture. Who shared Trump's response on social media? It's a way of securing it, also securing it from lots of other people. It's a beautiful thing. Any joint venture was not part of the 10-point peace plan, and U.S. agreed to, and the president previously called workable. Earlier Wednesday, Trump wrote on Truth Social there was big money to be made by the U.S. aiding in the traffic buildup in the Strait of Hormuz. We'll be loading up with supplies of all kinds and just hanging around in order to make sure that everything goes well. I feel confident that it will. The president also suggested on Monday that the U.S. could impose its own tolls on vessels trying to transit through the channel. Leaders in Tehran signaled last week it would install a toll booth system to exert a price on ships seeking safe passage through the straits. So that's just basically, like I said, that's a terrorist basically saying you're going to have to keep paying me if you don't want me to kill you. Yeah, you don't do that. Is area of water owned? Thanks, Jim. Well, it's under the strait is not big enough for it to be like any. It's not. It's such a small area, and you know, it's not that wide. You know, so as far as like international stuff like that, but as far as it borders Iran, it also borders other countries. It also borders Oman. Oman has a thing that comes out into it. That's why it makes it narrow. So they would have just as much claim over it as Iran. And there's also some islands that Iran stole from them back in the 80s that maybe somebody should have gave back to Oman. I don't know. They are the mafia now. A warning shot to leakers. Oh, yeah. FBI wrecks Special Forces Commando for leaking classified info. I saw that. It came across the thing. It's called Innocent Passage. The Islamic Republic's previous proposal to toll vessels drew criticism from Secretary of State Marco Rubio. He blasted the potential tolling system as illegal and dangerous for the world, adding that the U.S. and European partners would have to plan to address that possibility. Rubio noted, however, the U.S. would not lead that plan. Funds raised by Iran's toll system will go toward reconstructing the country, a regional officer told the Associated Press. Some of the accumulated fees will also be presented to Oman, though how the nation would use them is unclear. Trump and the members of his cabinet praised the deal as a victory for the U.S. J.D. Vance called the ceasefire a fragile truce and warned that if Iran were going to lie, if they're going to cheat, if they're going to try to prevent even the fragile truce that we've set up from taking place, they're not going to be happy. The U.S. and Iran reached a deal within a few hours to spare before Trump's deadline. He had threatened that if Iran did not shape up a deal and reopen the straits, Iran's whole civilization will die tonight. Members of Congress were outraged by Trump's threat. They slammed the president and fumed over potential impending war crime. Many called for his removal from the office through 25th Amendment. Connecticut Rep. John Larson filed articles of impeachment against him over the threat. Yeah. See? So that's what's happening. That's what's happening. Yeah. This is from the Independent of the UK. Just says, Trump says charging countries to use the Strait of Hormuz could be a joint venture with Iran. It's a beautiful thing. Like, I don't know, man. I don't know what's going on here. And then we got this from the Financial Post that gold pairs its gains after Iran's ceasefire deal with U.S. violated. Gold has fallen about 10% since the war began at the end of February. And it paired its gains after, as the Iranian parliament speaker said, a temporary ceasefire with the United States has been violated. Bullion rose 1.1% after earlier gaining as much as 3.2% to above 4,800 an ounce after the guy said three clauses ceasefire has been violated. War feeds gold prices. So yeah, bilateral ceasefire or negotiations unreasonable at a workable basis to which to negotiate. So yeah, so oil plunged below $100 a barrel. We saw all this stuff, so this is not really a thing. And this is from CBS, says that Vance says ceasefires are always messy, and the U.S. never indicated Lebanon would be included in the deal. I think we covered all this already. what's happening here is people are updating the stories, and now it's screwing with my stuff because these are not the stories I originally wanted them to be. Yeah, ceasefires are always messy. U.S. has violated ceasefire agreement, Iran's parliamentary speaker says. And then this says, Iran designates paths ships must use through the Strait of Hormuz. Vance says the U.S. did not agree that ceasefire would cover Lebanon. Macron tells Iran U.S. leaders that ceasefire decision was best choice. Oh yeah, I know now. Now you've got like the Brits and the French all saying basically like they had something to do with it, the ceasefire or anything. And then Trump calls the barrage of attacks in Lebanon a separate skirmish. Terry says that all this is political rhetoric. All this political rhetoric is basically market manipulation, and Trump and his cronies are cashing in big time. Well, I mean, Trump shouldn't be able to be making any plays right now, personally. President Trump referred to the barrage of attacks in Lebanon as a skirmish on Wednesday, as Israel intensified its attacks on the country in the hours following the Iran-U.S. ceasefire deal. In an interview with PBS NewsHour, Trump said Lebanon was not included in the ceasefire deal because of Hezbollah. They were not included. They'll get taken care of too. It's all right. When PBS asked if it's okay for Israel to continue hitting Lebanon, he says it's part of the deal. Everyone knows that. That's a separate skirmish. And when is it Ukraine's ceasefire again, or have they stopped battling Russia? No, they're not. That's still going on. Like I don't know, man. I don't know how that's going to get solved. I really don't. Benjamin Netanyahu said the 2-week ceasefire deal agreed to the U.S. and Iran did not include Lebanon. Israel launched strong strikes against Lebanon since the war began. According to Reuters, the military said it targeted more than 100 Hezbollah command centers. Like, well, how many command centers could they have? Reuters cited the Lebanese health ministry saying the strikes killed dozens and left hundreds of others wounded. A separate report from Australian outlet ABC News cited the Lebanese Red Cross reporting that the death toll could be as high as 300. So wait a minute. So the health ministry says dozens were killed, and then this Red Cross says 300. Which is it? Which is true? What's the true number? More than 1,500 people have been died in Lebanon as a result of the conflict since it began. Lebanon's Prime Minister Nawaf Salam condemned Israel's attacks. While we welcome the agreement between Iran and the United States and intensified our efforts to reach an agreement for a ceasefire in Lebanon, Israel continued to expand its aggressions. So they were separately negotiating with Israel for a separate ceasefire with Lebanon. So all friends of Lebanon are called upon to help us stop the aggression by all available means. I don't know. Does that mean by any means necessary? Is that what that means? By any means necessary? They want to stop the attacks? Okay, and this was just updated 2 hours ago. This says that Israel offered to restrain strikes in Lebanon during the U.S.-Iran talks. Terry says that it's easy to tell when Netanyahu's lying because his lips are moving. Well, I could say that by a lot of people, a lot of politicians. A lot of politicians. Vance said Wednesday Israel has proposed to restrain itself when it comes to strikes in Lebanon as long as the negotiations between the U.S. and Iran are taking place. Oh, so now they're going to do it. Israeli military renewed the attacks and posed an immediate challenge to the stability of the ceasefire. And this is saying that 244 people have been killed in Israeli strikes. So now this is according to the Lebanese civil defense. Well, who is that? Because it's the health ministry said it was a couple dozen. It says the big picture. This says stopping the Israeli strikes against Hezbollah, Tehran's proxy in Lebanon, was one of Iran's key demands for a ceasefire. The Iranians are now threatening to resume the fighting and close the Strait of Hormuz if the fighting continues in Lebanon. The Iran-U.S. ceasefire terms are clear and explicit. The U.S. must choose ceasefire or continue war via Israel. The ball's in the U.S. courts. Egypt, which helped mediate the ceasefire, accused Israel of a premeditated attempt to undermine the truce. Groyper's being chatty as usual. Could be. Snarf, what happened to the Jesuits? That's not Snarf. That was Choosy. That was about the Jesuits. And I haven't seen Choosy in a long time. He told reporters at the legitimate misunderstanding between the U.S. and Iran regarding the ceasefire. So we'll have to see what goes on with that. This is from Al Jazeera. It says Trump backs Israel, says Lebanon is a separate skirmish. This is from Newsmax. This says truce at risk. Israel expands Lebanon strikes and Iran closes strait again. I cannot recreate player reason unknown. So ceasefire deal to pause the war appeared to face a significant challenge. I mean, here's the thing. Chusey got arrested. Did he really? For what? Why would Chusey get arrested? The White House demanded that the channel be reopened and sought to keep peace talks on track. So both Iran and U.S. claimed victory after the peace deal. So Iranian foreign minister insisted that an end to the war in Lebanon was part of the ceasefire deal. So we saw this. Okay. And this is from Breitbart. It says Iran blocks traffic in the Strait of Hormuz over Israel strikes in Lebanon. Iran reportedly violated the ceasefire agreement brokered by Pakistan in a matter of hours by once again closing the Strait of Hormuz to commercial traffic, ostensibly because Israel has refused to halt its operations against Hezbollah terrorists. Because Chusey's insane? But I mean, they don't arrest people for being insane, do they? And very annoying. Israel bombed a synagogue in Iran. Did the legacy me say anything about that? I didn't see anything about that. There's synagogues in Iran? There's a synagogue in Iran. Are you sure? Iran's state-run Fars news agency, which is affiliated with the IRGC, said on Wednesday morning that 2 oil tankers were allowed to pass through the strait with permission from Iran, but the strait was then closed again in response to the strikes on Lebanon. CBS News reported Iran's remaining naval forces are still warning ships in the Persian Gulf they must obtain permission. What naval force? Pakistani Prime Minister Shahbaz, whose government mediated the ceasefire talks, said the agreement did include Lebanon and all hostilities would end immediately. So, I don't know. Maybe this is a language barrier. Maybe their translators didn't do something right. Lebanese President Joseph Aoun denounced the Israeli strikes. And then New York Post says Iran blocks the ships in the Strait of Hormuz with Lebanon ceasefire demand and $2 million toll. So what is going on? What is going on? What is going on? Hey, what's up, Gino Editor? How you doing? Hey, I'm late. I'm hoping to see a Truth Social post on the next few days. Psych, bitches. Thank you for your attention to this matter. You say 1 million Jews live in Iran. I thought they kicked them all out. I think the meeting with Rutt may have been rocky. Trump truth disappointment in all caps. Uh-oh. Well. So there's still stuff going on. So Iran is again blocking the strait just hours after agreeing to reopen it. Everyone knows Israel's fight with Hezbollah in Lebanon is a separate skirmish. These are natural gas tankers. These are LNG tankers. That's not an oil tanker. That's an LNG. That's what those big domes are, liquefied natural gas. Iran's finger pointing came as Tehran attempts to extract payment from ships that want to pass through the strait without coming under Iranian attack. Despite promising to reopen the strait for 2 weeks, tolls were reportedly as high as $2 million per ship. Iran claims that it has closed the strait in response to Israel's bombing of Lebanon is completely unacceptable. Again, this is a case where they're saying publicly is different privately. We have seen an uptick of traffic in the strait today, and I'll reiterate the president's expectation and demand that the strait is reopened immediately, quickly, and safely. Iran has threatened to destroy any ships that attempt to cross the strait without Tehran's go-ahead as it attempts to set up a toll system. You must receive permission from Iranian Sepah Navy for passing through the strait. If any vessel tries to transit without permission, they will be destroyed. Oh. Well, I guess then maybe the ceasefire isn't on anymore, and maybe you should just do what you said you were going to do. I don't know. This is from the AP. Iran accuses the U.S. of violating parts of the deal, says the ceasefire is unreasonable. Oh, okay. Well, We got this. It says, White House says reports Iran halted Strait of Hormuz traffic are false. And here's a video which says this is the site of an Israeli airstrike on an apartment building in Beirut.
Federal authorities have been investigating insurance fraud by people accused of intentionally ramming into 18-wheelers.
With respect to the first reporting out of Iranian state media, the president was made aware of those reports before I came to the podium. That is completely unacceptable. And again, this is a case of what they're saying publicly is different privately. We have seen an uptick of traffic in the Strait today, and I will reiterate the president's expectation and demand that the Strait of Hormuz is reopened immediately, quickly and safely. That is his expectation. It has been relayed to him privately that is what's taking place, and these reports publicly are false.
Well, okay. False. Okay. So the White House says reports of Iran halting oil traffic through the Strait one day after ceasefire are false. So I guess
the last call for clearance at late.
So I guess we're going to have to wait and see who's telling the truth. I mean, there are ways to check this. Don't they know that? There are things you can look at. You can look at the traffic. You can see they have what's called like AIS that you can track where the ships are going and stuff like that. And now, America First just let's level Iran. Maybe the United States shouldn't have initiated this conflict. The Strait was open before all this nonsense started. I don't know. I mean, it was there was negotiations going on, and Iran basically said, we have this stuff, we're not giving it up, and we have, enough nuclear material to make 12 bombs. We could have them done within a month. So that's why they got attacked. So Gundam Zix says, NATO wasn't there when we needed them, and they won't be there if we need them again. Remember Greenland, that big, poorly run piece of ice from President Donald J. Trump on Truth Social. I mean, follow the channel, what's going on with shipping for all your shipping news. The semi-official fires agency made the claim on Wednesday the Strait's a critical global choke point. Pakistan, which helped negotiate a ceasefire, said Lebanon was included in agreement once we read all this. So, the White House says that the president was made aware of these reports before I came to the podium. That is completely unacceptable. So we heard that. Levitt said this is the case of what Iran is saying publicly is different from what they're telling us privately, the U.S. privately. She confirmed the U.S. has seen an uptick in traffic. Hexas claims victory. Lebanon's health ministry said 89 people were killed and 700 were wounded. Within 10 minutes and in multiple areas simultaneously, the IDF completed a targeted strike targeting 100 command centers. This is the largest attack carried out. So why would they wait to do this? I mean, this is a serious question. Why would Israel wait to attack these places until the fucking ceasefire? Why wouldn't they have done this like the day before or last week? I mean, are they purposely trying to fuck this up? That's a serious question. That's a serious question. Sabotage? I don't know, man. I don't know. Fires reported 2 oil tankers have been allowed to cross. Shabazz Sharif urged all parties to exercise restraint. Okay. And then it says Trump has been told that the reports around the Strait and Hormuz closure are false. So that's what's going on there. White House disputes reports that the Strait of Hormuz is closed. Okay, next story. Chuck Schumer says that the Senate will attempt the next Iran War Powers Resolution vote next week. So something that it's all a game. Israel wants Iran's oil and needs them destroyed to get it. Well, I don't. That don't seem like. I mean, that's not. Don't believe these first reports. Okay. We got played by Israel. Wake up. I hope we didn't get played by Israel. It seems like it would be honestly, it would seem to be very short-sighted for Israel to do something like that because they're already very like record levels of unpopular in the U.S. Like they've lost a lot of support over, just they've lost the propaganda war. So Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer said Wednesday that the upper chamber is planning to attempt another vote on the Iran War Powers Resolution next week, despite already failing to pass it twice. The War Powers Resolution will require President Trump to get permission from Congress in order to use military force on Iran. The Senate tried to pass the resolution last month amid the military conflict in the Middle East. Congress must reassert its authority. I mean, just think about that. The president has to get permission before he can use force. That's a violation of the Constitution. Congress must reassert its authority, especially at this dangerous moment. So maybe, but it's the Democrats, did these demon rats get paid off by the Iranians? Is this where some of that $6 billion that they got pallets of cash went to pay them off to do this? Maybe. Republicans will once again have the opportunity to join with demon rats at the end of this reckless war of choice. Oh, it's a reckless war of choice, is it? The resolution comes after the president faced backlash for threatening to wipe out Iran's civilization if the country did not agree to reopen the strait. The U.S. and Iran have since agreed to a 2-week ceasefire. Israel doesn't care if they lost our support as long as Donald still supports them. Well, he's not going to be president forever, and you're still going to have to deal with what happens afterwards. And then we got this from Fox News, faux news. Yeah, it says, well, the Obama administration was populated by a large number of actual Iranian agents. Yeah. Schumer calls Trump a military moron and says the U.S. worse off now than when Iran war started.
So any minute, the Pentagon is expected to give an update on Operation Epic Fury. Now, this comes just hours after President Trump announcing that the U.S. and Iran have agreed to a 2-week ceasefire, with the first ships passing through the Strait of Hormuz. And moments ago, President Trump posting, quote, the United States will work closely with Iran, which have determined has gone through what will be a very productive regime change. There will be no enrichment of uranium. And the United States will, working with Iran, dig up and remove all of the deeply buried B-2 bomber nuclear dust. It is now and has been under very exacting satellite surveillance, Space Force. Nothing has been touched from the date of the attack. We are and will be talking tariff and sanction relief with Iran. Many of the 15 points have been already agreed to. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Here to discuss, former Trump administration ambassador at large and coordinator for counterterrorism, Nathan Sells. So, Nathan, at the beginning of the show, I went through those 15 points, and it concerned me that we hadn't gotten any agreement, and we put them on the big board right here for the audience to see. But the president is saying that behind the scenes, they have gotten Iran to agree to some of those points. What's your reaction?
Well, Lawrence, great to see you. I think the two sides, based on their public statements, it seems like they're still pretty far apart. The statement the president has put out with our 15 points, those haven't changed from day one. No nuclear enrichment, no nuclear weapons program, and so on. What the Iranians have said publicly is just a complete fantasy list of concessions that they think the United States is somehow going to agree to. And I've got news for you. Those are all dead on arrival. We're not going to pay reparations. We're not going to agree to Iran controlling the Strait of Hormuz. We're not going to withdraw our forces from across the Middle East. So I don't know if the Iranians are serious about that, or if that is the sort of thing you have to say to save face with domestic audiences. Time will tell. These negotiations are going to kick off fairly soon in Pakistan, it seems, and we'll get a sense then of how far apart the two sides actually are.
Well, and if they break it's only a ceasefire. This is not an end to the war. I mean, how many ceasefires did we go through with Hamas and Israel? So if they break it, then I guess we bomb our hearts off, as the president would say.
Well, as the president said, all of this is contingent upon Iran reopening the Strait of Hormuz. So let's see if they actually follow through on their commitment, because if they don't, if they've breached the agreement already, the United States is not going to be bound to follow the terms of the ceasefire. And notice, overnight, the Iranians launched a number of attacks on the UAE, on Israel, and Kuwait. So maybe this is the sort of thing that happens when word filters down to the frontline commanders, hey guys, hit the brakes on this. But maybe this is a sign that the Iranians are not actually serious about committing to the ceasefire.
Okay, the president also talking new tariffs. He said a country supplying military weapons to Iran will be immediately tariffed on any and all goods sold to the United States of America, 50% effective immediately. There will be no exclusion or exemptions. What do you make of that?
Hey, what's up, Hank? Yeah, rule for war is to
Lawrence,
finish
let's be
it.
clear
Yeah.
about what
You don't want to
countries
do
the
half
president has
measures.
in mind there. Who is selling arms to Iran? It's our enemies, China and it's Russia. Yeah. So like those three countries have formed an axis of resistance against the United States. They want to knock the United States down from our leadership role in the world and displace us. So they're working together. For us to tariff Russia is probably not going to have a huge economic impact on Russia. We don't buy anything from them, not that much. It's a third world economy with oil. China, on the other hand, should be watching this very closely because we do have really extensive trading ties with China, and they've been selling apparently not very good military kit to the Iranians. Of course, it was no problem for us to degrade and defeat it, but watch very carefully to see how China reacts to this threat. Are they going to step back from their military commitment and selling dual use capabilities along with military capabilities to the mullahs?
Nate, I only have a few seconds left, but do you think the American public, and I want to respect people and gas prices. I understand people being impacted by that. People are living paycheck to paycheck in parts of America. But Iran's stated goal was to put pressure on the president when it came down to the gas prices. Do you think we could have given the president some more room in that area?
Hard to say, Lawrence. My sense is that the president was able to offer this ceasefire because his military commanders were telling him, we basically finished the job. We completed the war plan, and so there's not a whole lot left for us to do on the military front. But that's just a guess.
Copy that. Nathan Sells, thank you.
Yeah. So, all right. So Chuck Schumer blasted President Trump as a military moron in a Wednesday X post asserting that the nation is worse off now compared to when the commander-in-chief first launched the Iran war effort. I don't see how that's, I mean, what's he talking about? And if he restarts the war, we'll be even worse shape. We must pass our war powers resolution to end this war for good. In a statement provided to Faux News, the White House spokesperson Anna Kelly declared, like many demon rats, Chuck Schumer has spent decades talking about the threat posed by Iran, but doing nothing about it. President Trump took courageous action to ensure Iran can never use a nuclear weapon against our homeland, and as he said, we are far along with the definitive agreement to deliver lasting peace. Yeah, Schumer is one to be calling names. Yes, he is. So that's that with that story. Let me look. There was one thing I wanted to get. Yeah, so Schumer says Senate will vote on a war powers resolution next week. Same thing here from Korea Times. U.S. Senate to vote on a resolution to curb Trump's Iran's war powers. So we'll see what happens with that. Let's do this story real quick before I get to the impeachment crap. So breaking news, the FBI arrests an ex-Special Operations Command employee for leaking classified info to the media. Schumer is the top recipient of AIPAC funds. Yeah, I don't know, man. Oh, and Schumer just happens to be Jewish. Yeah, he does. It's crazy, right? Winning has a huge cost. Yeah, sure does. FBI and our partners arrested a former SOCOM employee who supported our top-level military warfighters for transmitting classified information to a member of the media. Is this the person? Huh. FBI arrested former command employee who allegedly leaked classified information to the press. If that's not the person, if this isn't the person that leaked it, this is kind of bad to have their picture there like that. If that's just a stock photo. A former SOCOM employee who has supported our top-level military warfighters for transmitting classified information to the media. A cash patrol sent on Wednesday. Let this serve as a message to any would-be leakers. We're working these cases and we're making arrests. The FBI will not tolerate those who seek to betray our country and put Americans in harm's way. According to the Justice Department, 40-year-old Courtney Williams of North Carolina was arrested yesterday and indicted by a federal grand jury on Wednesday. Williams worked for a special military unit, SMU, and held a top-secret sensitive compartmented information security clearance. She is accused of transmitting classified national defense information to individuals not authorized to receive it. The allegations stem from claims that Williams repeatedly communicated with journalists via telephone and text messages from 2022 to 2025. During this time, the journalists reached out for information to help write a book. Both the book and an article were published that name Williams as a source and attributed her to specific statements, some of which contained classified information. When the book was published, Williams exchanged messages with the journalist, one of which stated that she was concerned about the amount of classified information being disclosed. She also wrote in a message to a third party, I might actually get arrested for disclosing classified information. Well, that was pretty dumb. That was pretty dumb to admit that, because now you know. Now it's known. So after investigation, special agents arrested former Fort Bragg civilian contractor for allegedly giving classified materials to a reporter who published national security information. SAC Davis stressed the risk to our national security when classified information is divulged. The tradecraft tactics and techniques used by the U.S. military in this case were classified and should only be shared with those with the proper clearances and a need to know in order to protect American lives and safeguard classified national defense information, said Reed Davis, the FBI special agent in charge of North Carolina. These are serious accusations. Anyone divulging information they vowed to protect to a reporter for publication is reckless, self-serving, and damages our national security. All right. And this says 77-year-old Dem facing a younger primary challenger seeks to impeach Donald Trump. Larson charged Trump with murder, war crimes, and piracy over Venezuelan military intervention and naval blockade. Let's see this. Oh, seriously?
Hey there, Dream Chaser. Are you ready for an unforgettable?
Took 6 weeks to find out that she didn't have what it takes. But you got to win the midterms. Because if we don't win the midterms, it's just going to be, they'll find a reason to impeach me. I'll get impeached. We don't impeach them. You know why? Because they're meaner than we are. We should have impeached Joe Biden for 100 different things. They are mean and smart. But fortunately for you, they have horrible policy. They can be smart as can be. But when they want open borders, when they want, as I said, men and women's sports, when they want transgender for everyone, bring your kids in, we're going to change the sex of your child. Just send them our way. In some cases, like in Minnesota, they don't even tell the parents. Is that right? And nobody believes it when I say it. I think we have 6 states. Nobody, am I correct? Okay, Tom Emmer said yes, so. But it's true. Where the kid comes back, they keep the kid. They operate on the kid. They don't tell the parents. It's not believable. We have great, solid common sense policy. They have horrendous policy. What they do is they stick together. They never have a no vote. They impeached me. I never knew I was going to be impeached. I get a phone call. You just got impeached. I said, what does that mean? It took them 10 minutes. They impeached the president who did a damn good job. I rebuilt our military.
All right. So it says here, Rep. John Larson, he's a Demon Rat con. He's a Demon Rat con man, is mounting a long shot bid to impeach President Trump as he stares down a primary threat from younger challengers who seek to thwart his bid for a 15th House term. Wait, why did it say he was 95 earlier? Now it's saying he's 77. It says Larson introduced 13 articles of impeachment against Trump on Monday, citing the president's military intervention in Venezuela, the deployment of National Guard troops to cities across the country, and his executive order to curtail birthright citizenship. God help America. If Dems do not just Trump, we will all be screwed. I don't know. Civil war is coming. I think that's what they want. I mean, you got people blatantly calling for fucking a coup. They're saying that, you got people like Barnes, you got people with the demon rats, basically. It's weird that Barnes is making the same arguments that Chuck Schumer and these other Democrats are making. Tackle Trump. Take him, kidnap him. Take power away from him. It's like, what the fuck? That's actually illegal, what they're saying. That's a crime. To even suggest it is a crime. Larson also charged Trump with murder, war crimes, and piracy for ordering the naval blockade around Venezuela in January and for launching dozens of strikes against the drug trafficking vessels in the Eastern Pacific. Well, it's weird because there's a fucking law on the books that says that you can do just that. And it was, a bill that was, pushed by Chuck Schumer. Yeah, he says, what's it say? Yeah, Barnes has gone viral with his Alex Jones interview. Trump pointing out tyrants, those that hate the USA and abuse the people. Yeah. Though his serial usurpation of congressional war power and commission of murder and war, this guy's a fucking lunatic. The resolution has little chance of advancing in a Republican-controlled House or resulting in a Senate trial, even if Larson chooses to force a vote when lawmakers return. However, Larson's impeachment push comes as the septuagenarian congressman faces a heated primary challenge from several younger candidates. Larson, a senior member of the powerful House Ways and Means Committee, suffered a complex partial seizure while delivering a speech on the House floor in February 2025. His primary challenger, Luke Bronin, a former Hartford mayor and military veteran, called on Larson to step aside after nearly 3 decades in the House. Bronin, who is backed by Democrat-aligned veterans groups, outraised Larson during the first 2 months after launching his insurgent campaign in 2025. What exactly is a Democrat-aligned veterans group? It's unclear whether Larson's impeachment push is supported by the House Democrat leadership. A spokesperson for the House Minority Leader did not immediately respond to Fox News Digital's request for comments. Larson is the latest string of demon rats to introduce articles of impeachment against Trump since he began his second term. I mean, he was only in office like 2 weeks or something, not even when Al Green brought articles of impeachment. So Trump has repeatedly warned that demon rats will attempt to impeach him for the third time if the party retakes the House. Former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi did not rule out that possibility during an interview with MS Now last week, but added the demon rats would focus on addressing cost of living issues. Same thing from 9 News here. Articles of impeachment filed against Donald Trump.
First this morning, a whole civilization will die tonight. That is the US president's message to Iran if they don't agree to a deal by his deadline, which is set to expire later this morning.
Iranians have been forming human chains around the kind of civilian infrastructure that is under threat. Let's go live to Reed Butler in Los Angeles. Reed, we are now talking less than 5 hours before Trump's deadline for a new deal.
And guys, when you have the Iranian...
This is not covering this. So yeah, a prominent Democrat congressman filed articles of impeachment, 13 articles. Donald Trump has blown past every requirement to be removed from office, and it's getting worse. Okay, good for you. His illegal war in Iran is not only driving up prices, it has cost American lives. His profane, sacrilegious, these fucking people talking about sacrilegious stuff, they got a lot of balls. Republicans control both chambers of Congress, making removal highly unlikely. This is Trump and Secretary of War Hegseth face articles of impeachment. We talked about this last night. He's got this crazy lady. Oh my God, Bella, you got to go outside. House Demon Rat says he has filed articles of impeachment against Trump. We got this story, which I thought was very interesting. It says traders place a large $950 million bet on oil prices falling hours ahead of the ceasefire. Yeah, tell him, Bella. I think Bella's got to go outside. Yeah. 1 second. Let me try to find. Okay, I guess I'll go back to this one. I guess I'll play this for a second just so that I can let Bella out real quick.
Regime directing its citizens to form human chains, and Donald Trump threatening to destroy an entire civilization. You get the feeling that a deal is unlikely before that deadline later this morning. But Donald Trump, in his post, his most inflammatory public rhetoric yet, did make a direct appeal to Iran's leadership. I'll read out what he wrote this morning. A whole civilization will die tonight, never to be brought back again. I don't want that to happen, but it probably will. However, now that we have complete and total regime change where different, smarter and less radicalised minds prevail, maybe something revolutionarily wonderful can happen. Who knows? Now, the US Vice President, J.D. Vance, he has been involved in these negotiations.
Sorry.
This is what he had to say earlier about potential progress.
So we recognize there's some delay sometimes in transmitting messages from one person to another, but we feel
Was that Bella?
confident
Yeah, that
we
was
can get a
Bella. She wants to go
response,
out.
whether it's positive or negative.
Now, already we have seen some preemptive strikes on Iran's Karg Island by the United States, and Israel has hit road and rail bridges, but that will be nothing compared to what could potentially be coming, guys.
We're a few hours away, Reed. Thank you so much for that.
Yep, it's a few hours away. All right, let's see here. Let's go back to this one. So, yeah, approximately a $950 million bet on oil prices falling just hours before the U.S. and Iran announced a ceasefire, the latest large wager on the direction of the world's most traded commodity, ahead of a major policy announcement by Donald Trump. Like, I hope there's nobody, I hope this is not people that with inside information. At around 22:30 GMT on Tuesday, Trump stepped back from threatening the destruction of a whole civilization and announced a 2-week ceasefire, knocking crude futures down by some 15% to below $100 a barrel at the start of Wednesday's official trading session. Taking large positions on oil prices. Sorry about that. I didn't know that was still up there. Here comes James. Yes, he's going to come running in probably. He's trying to get in. Taking a large position on oil prices rising or falling is not unusual, as traders use them to hedge large volumes of physical oil trade. But such deals are very rarely done in big lots, as traders prefer to use sweeping orders from across many exchanges, to ask brokers to use algorithmic trading over many hours to execute the order to avoid impacting prices with their bets. Large orders are seldom executed after settlement, which happens Monday to Friday at 18:30 GMT. The bet followed similar moves on March 23rd when investors sold $500 million in futures just 15 minutes before an announcement by Trump that he would delay attacks on Iran's energy infrastructure, which stunned markets and then triggered a 15% drop in crude prices. In Tuesday's trading, some 6,200 lots of Brent crude futures changed hands, roughly 1% of the total volume. The CME declined to comment. ICE did not immediately respond to Reuters' request for comment. Trading volumes and volatility have exploded since the start of the war. And this is another story. The traders make $500,000 betting on ceasefire hours before announcement. 3 anonymous accounts with no other wagers were created on Polymarket after the Iran war started. A group of gamblers made almost $500,000 by betting on a ceasefire just hours before it was announced. The 3 anonymous accounts on prediction platform Polymarket made $484,000 in profits. The 3 accounts made their first bets on Polymarket less than 24 hours before the U.S. president said a temporary deal had been struck. Each account placed bets when the odds of the ceasefire were still very low. The 3 accounts cashed out some of their holdings as the odds of a ceasefire rose, but held the majority of their positions. 2 of the accounts were created this month, and 1 was created in March. Who is keeping an eye on the boys? Their mother. Their mother is out there with them. It's expected to fuel growing scrutiny by regulators of prediction market websites. Kalshi and Polymarket among concerns that individuals with insider knowledge may be using them to place bets. Like, it's possible. I mean, just so everyone knows, Bella's already back from being outside. There she is. See, there's Bella. Just chilling. Even though it's been very, 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 very slow tonight. Only one donation came in tonight of $5. It's very strange. I don't know. Very, very poor evening tonight. So the companies are the two largest prediction markets, letting users bet on everything but who might attend the Super Bowl to the death of the Ayatollah Khomeini. They were letting people bet on the condition of the pilot that was missing, and then they had to take it down because that pissed everybody off. Which is like, what are you doing? You're letting them bet on whether the guy survives? What are you, nuts? Oh, there we go. Look at this, America First for 5. Thank you so much. Wow, with that means we are now just 90 away from adding an extra hour and only 40 away from Belavision. Thank you so much. Wow. And then, thank you so much. And then, yeah, notice the pattern. Trump says there's a ceasefire, oil goes up, and then he says he's going to bomb, and oil goes down. It's market manipulation. I think he got it the opposite. He says there's a ceasefire, oil goes down, and the market goes up. And then he says he's going to bomb, oil goes up, and it's market. It could be market manipulation. I don't know, but it shouldn't be. I mean, it'll be easy to find out who's doing it. They'll be able to track it down. And then look at this, another 5 from Doc. I'm sure Barnes' heel turn has nothing to do with his degenerate gambling pushing. Yes, purely coincident, barely an inconvenience. Oh, that's right. He has been doing a lot of gambling, right? He does have a whole thing where he gambles on Kalshi and all this stuff and betting on all this stuff. But thank you so much for the 5. Yes, what's up, Doc? Yeah, definitely. So as gas prices dropped, they did start dropping. And with that means we are 85 away from adding an hour to the show, first additional hour to the show, and just 35 away from Belavision. Thank you all so much. Thanks, Trumpy. Yeah. Thanks, Doc. There's always insiders doing that shit. Market manipulation for sure. I mean, I don't know, man. Yes, who's playing stocks? Yeah, that's the thing. Like, it could be. I mean, if it's somebody somebody actually in the administration doing it, it's a very risky and stupid thing to do. More than likely, if I was to guess, I would say it's somebody not like somebody just on the periphery, like some person that's just like standing around hearing this stuff, that's telling someone, and that's who's doing it. Barnes Sports Pick local subs is something like $500 a year. A lawyer my ass. Yeah. Polymarket is best known for its larger offshore prediction market, which is unregulated, but the company is also launching a regulated U.S. platform. Neither platform is allowed to operate in the UK. Fears of suspicious trades. Todd Phillips, a finance professor at Georgia State University, who's previously served on an advisory board for the CFTC, said that he viewed these 3 trades as suspicious. He said there are types of transactions or types of accounts that regulators want to know about and do some further investigating. He said the trade bore some of the hallmarks of insider trading. But he said without more information on the individuals behind the bets, they could also just be high conviction wagers, so YOLO bets. Yes. So I do some stock trading. The markets are definitely manipulated from equities to commodities to speculation. Oh, yeah. Yeah, they're definitely. Like, I personally think, honestly, I think and this is not in any way, shape, or form any financial advice. But I think the stock market's like a Ponzi scheme, really. If you're presiding the administration of good books, if you're in the presiding administration of good books, you have a license to steal. That's the way things have always worked. They're the people best positioned to take advantage. Yes. Yeah, you did have it backwards. Yeah, YOLO bets, it could be. This could also, here's the thing that nobody has wanted to, they don't know where these bets were placed from. It could be somebody in the Iranian administration that found out that they were going to make a deal and then did the bets. It could be. Or it could be somebody in Pakistan. It could be anybody. There's a ton of other people that knew about this happening besides just the Trump administration. That's all I'm saying. So Bubble Maps, an analytic firm, also found the cluster of 3 accounts that predicted the U.S. strikes on Iran with a remarkable degree of accuracy, made almost 600,000 successfully betting on a ceasefire. 3 accounts have repeatedly changed their names and placed bets as large as 75,000 when the implied odds of a ceasefire on Polymarket were as low as 15 PC. We cannot say for certain that these accounts are insiders. Still, their track record of correctly calling surprise attacks on Iran suggests they may have access to better information than most. Investigators in Israel indicted 2 individuals in February, including a military reservist, for allegedly using classified material to bet on Polymarket during the country's war against Iran last year. So, Polymarket did not respond to requests for comments. Freshly created accounts have also won 6-figure sums betting on whether the U.S. would strike Tehran and on the capture of Nicolas Maduro, Venezuelan president, just hours before each event occurred. But Kalshi and Polymarket also received attention from legislatures over the breadth of events that each market allows individuals to bet on. After Polymarket allowed speculators last week to bet on whether the U.S. airmen shot down in Iran would be rescued, 7 House Democrats wrote to U.S. regulators calling for a clampdown on prediction markets. Yeah, Kalshi and Polymarket don't want to be in the business of world leader Deadpools. That's why they didn't pay out. Yeah. Seth Moulton, the representative for Massive Two Shits, said on Tuesday that it's morally corrupt and completely unacceptable for these platforms to allow people to bet on whether American service members live or die. Yeah, it's kind of in bad taste. Polymarket eventually withdrew the contract, saying that it slipped through and the company's internal safeguards. Pay to play. Yeah, pay to play. Thanks, Brian Ogden. Let me close a couple tabs here. I got way too many open. And this is from Reuters. It says traders place a $950 million bet on oil prices falling hours ahead of ceasefire. Investors placed an approximately $950 million bet on oil prices falling just hours before the U.S. and Iran announced a ceasefire. I mean, this could be just somebody who said, like, looked at it and said, I think they're going to back down. I don't think this is going to happen. I think someone's going to capitulate. And so they're going to make a deal. You know, that's just could have been. It could have just been somebody saying, we're going to make a deal. Because in actuality, here's the thing. Either way, if they didn't make a deal and if Trump fulfilled his promise to totally obliterate everything and reopen the strait by force, oil prices would have still fell. So this isn't really that crazy of a bet because either way, oil prices were probably going to fall. You know, because if the straits were opened by force or by a deal, oil prices are going to fall. So this isn't just such a crazy bet. The bet on that there would be a ceasefire, that's something a little more interesting. On Tuesday, Trump stepped back from threatening the destruction of a whole civilization and knocking crude futures down by some 15%. If the sleazebag betting markets thought they could make a buck without political blowback or unwanted attention, they would do it in a heartbeat. Total scum. There's thousands of White House staffers, along with people in the Pentagon and State Department. It could be anyone. Oh, yeah, that's what I'm saying. And also, there was other people involved. There was the Pakistanis. All right. There's also the Iranians. There's also intermediaries and stuff like that. I thought Iran's navy was at the bottom of the sea. Ubuntu, it is. Okay, so they're saying that the bet follows similar moves on March 23rd when investors sold $500 million in oil futures just 15 minutes before the announcement of Trump said he would delay the attacks. Oh, you buy now it is. Okay, you're talking about that. I thought you were talking about Ubuntu, like the. In Tuesday's trading, some 6,200 lots of Brent crude trades hands. So the amount has doubled in the last 4 weeks as daily volumes have hit record highs above 1 million lots, equal to 1 billion barrels of oil. Almost all of their large units are at the bottom. So how are they closing any strait? They're using missiles and mines and drones. Which I didn't think the drones could take out a tanker. Pakistanis. A pack of Stanleys. Get it? That's a joke. It's an old joke when you say, what do you call a group of Polacks? A pack of Stanleys. I know insurance coverage was a reason. Okay. That was one thing. The same thing here from Korea Times says traders placed $950 million bet on oil price falling hours ahead of ceasefire. We got this story, man, which is crazy. All right. Which says that J.D. Vance, what Zelensky is doing is scandalous. No president should threaten a leader of an allied state, said the U.S. vice president who visited Budapest campus of Matthias Corvinus Collegium. You know, the Corvinus. Was that supposed to be one of the descendants of Dracula, Corvinus? J.D. Vance stressed that it is scandalous that Voldemort Zelensky threatened both the Hungarian prime minister and the Hungarian people. We are the economic and military superpower of the world, but we would never threaten that if you don't vote for Viktor Orban, you won't get this and that. We would never do that because we respect the sovereignty of Hungarians. The fact that so many foreigners, be they international bodies like the bureaucrats in Brussels, or any other foreign state, are threatening Hungarians to vote this way or we will retaliate is incredibly outrageous. Hey, Bill Vick, what's up? Great to see you. Amazing Russia hasn't used nukes in Ukraine. I thought they might end up using some tacticals, but maybe they just figured it's too much of a risk. Yeah. Trump is sharing inside information on Iran. I'm going to tell the media we have a ceasefire and buy 500 million of Exxon. No. You don't understand. These are negotiations that are going on. And it's not announced that they had a deal until both sides knew that both sides agreed. That's not how it works. One side doesn't go out and say, okay, we've decided to agree, because the other, you got to have it. So there's communications going back and forth. And there's a pack of Stanleys, a whole pack of Stanleys that are in the intermediary talking. So there's a whole bunch of people involved. Spell correct does my joking again. Okay, yeah. I like Orban. Oh, is this a thing?
Egy elnök sem fenyegetheti meg egy szövetséges állam vezetőelnököt, és a nézeték szándék szavazni.
Hatalma, de sosem
Never mind. I didn't know this was going to be in Hungarian. So that's J.D. Vance is not happy about that. And this says Vance hits out at scandalous Zelensky comments about Hungary's Orban. Vance's remarks came during a visit to Budapest aimed at boosting the chances of the nationalist Orban from winning, who faces his toughest challenge in a 16-year rule. So he's been in charge or whatever for 16 years. Kiev said the pipeline was damaged by a Russian drone attack in late ocean. Hungary's strained relations with Ukraine have taken center stage in the election campaign, with Budapest accusing Kiev of deliberately stopping flows of Russian oil through the Druzhba pipeline in an effort to sway the ballot. Kiev says the pipeline was damaged by a Russian drone attack in late January, and it is fixing it as fast as it can. Hungary responded by blocking a 90 billion euro EU loan for Ukraine, prompting Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to say he could give the address of whoever was responsible to the Ukrainian army, who could speak with him in their own language. What is he? So Ukraine wants to go to war with Hungary now? Really? Speaking at a Ukrainian university, Vance said Orban had told them about Zelensky's remarks. It's completely scandalous. You shouldn't have a foreign head of government threatening the head of government in an allied nation. Vance accused the media of a double standards in their coverage of the foreign interference in the 2016 presidential election and the Hungarian vote. You saw this back in 2016, where a lot of American media say there was a true scandal that Russian government bought like $500,000 in Facebook ads. Actually, I think it was like $37,000 in Facebook ads. That's foreign influence, but what's not foreign influence is when the European Union threatens billions of dollars withheld from Hungary because you guys protect your borders. What's not foreign influence is when the Ukrainians shut down pipelines, causing suffering among the Hungarian people in an effort to influence an election. Budapest has been embroiled in a long-running dispute with the European Union over issues ranging from judicial independence to the treatment of migrants. Does anyone believe Voldemort? I don't. EU is evil. Yeah, the EU, the entire EU was actually the Nazis' plan for post-war Europe, was the EU. And, go figure, the Germans are the biggest government in there and they control the most stuff and basically run the EU. Vance has already lambasted what he said the EU is meddling in the Hungarian vote at a news conference on Tuesday. A European Commission spokesperson said on Wednesday Brussels would use diplomatic channels to convey our concerns to U.S. counterparts following these comments. The Ukrainian president did not respond for requests to comment on Wednesday. Bella, go lay down. You already were outside. So this is the Kiev. I don't say Kiev. I say Kiev because I still eat chicken Kiev. I don't eat chicken Kiev. Completely scandalous. Vance blasts Zelensky's remarks after Orban rally. So yeah, we saw all this. Literally just got done arguing with my dad about the EU being a Nazi wet dream. Yeah, that's the facts, man. And some of the people that originally set up the EU in the 50s, or tried to, they were the same Nazis. Just saying. Check their names. I wasn't even aware that Zelensky said he was going to send private soldiers to the prime minister's residence until yesterday. Orban actually told me that, and I went and looked it up. Wow. That's completely scandalous. You should never have a foreign head of government or foreign state threatening the head of a government of an allied nation. First head of NATO was a legit Yahtzee. Yep. The incidents Vance referred to took place in March when Zelensky suggested to reporters at a press briefing that Ukrainian soldiers could talk to Orban in their own language amid Orban's threats to veto the loan package. Wow, that sounds like extortion. We hope that one person in the European Union will not block the $90 billion or the first tranche of the $90 billion that Ukrainian soldiers will have weapons. What the fuck are they doing? Are they eating the weapons? Otherwise, we will give the address to this person to our armed forces, to our guys, let them call him and speak to him in their own language. That sounds like a threat. The EU has criticized Zelensky's remarks at the time, and a vital loan remained blocked by Orban's government. Kiev and Budapest have long been engulfed in a diplomatic standoff over Budapest's purchase of Russian energy and Ukraine's EU membership bid, among other issues. But a leaked call ahead of the election showed Orban cozying up to Kremlin leader Vladimir Putin, calling him a lion and himself a mouse at the lion's service. His foreign minister also implicated in sharing details from closed-door EU meetings with Russian foreign minister and consulting a Russian deputy energy minister on how to... See, this is all right here. This is all right here. I don't know if any of this is true. They're talking about this leaked call and all this stuff. Well, who leaked the call? Where did it come from? They are buying and selling weapons on the black market. That's what they're doing. That's what they're doing. I mean, they've already recovered javelins in Mexico that went to Ukraine. Just saying. Polls suggest Orban's party faces the biggest challenge in the 16-year rule, with the opposition party polling ahead. Vance said he traveled to the rally for Orban at the request of Donald Trump due to what they claim was election interference by the EU. During the rally, Vance also echoed Orban's longstanding criticism of Kiev and Zelensky and the EU, also a core theme of Orban's election campaign, claiming they tried to interfere with the U.S. and Hungary elections. They did. We know they did. We know the EU and Britain and other places fucked around in the U.S. elections. They tried to. This is what they do. This is part of the cost of doing business with some elements of their system. I try to remind myself that Ukraine, like the United States, is a very complicated pace. There are people who try to interfere in other countries' elections, and there are people who actually just say, you know what, we believe in sovereignty for everybody, and that's what we support. Hungarian opposition leader Peter Magyar slammed what he called foreign interference. Hungarian history is not written in Washington, not in Brussels, not in Kiev, not in Moscow, not in Serbia, but Hungary. Hungary history was written by the Hungarian people. I must insist that all international politicians from Hungary to Serbia, from Russia to America, refrain from intervening in the Hungarian elections. We are not a geopolitical playground. This is our country. I mean, I can agree with that. This is from Al Jazeera. It says, J.D. Vance slams Zelensky. And this is an interesting story about some other stuff. All right. This is how China dominates the world's critical minerals production. Yes. Because if you are running Windows, you can turn spell correction off. Yes, you can. Because basically, this some kind of energy They need $60 billion so that they can unseat China as China's grip on critical, rare earths. No love lost between Zelensky and Vance. Oh, you ain't kidding. They haven't gotten along ever. Critical minerals are mined all over the world, but the majority of the supply ends up passing through China. For a broad range of key metals and minerals, China is either the largest miner, the dominant refiner, or both. This is true for rare earths, lithium, cobalt, graphite, nickel, and many other metals and minerals that are essential to defense, energy, and high-tech applications. It is less about where ores are dug out of the ground and more about where they are turned into usable components. In other words, Chinese processing plants are essentially the gatekeepers of the global supply. Australia and South America host much of the world's lithium, while Congo supplies the lion's shares of cobalt and copper, but the rocks themselves can't become a battery or magnet without intensive downstream processing and refining. China built those downstream industries at scale over decades through state support and investment. No, I don't think she's saying that there's no love lost between Vance and Zelensky. Because remember what happened when there was the meeting and Vance went at him, and Zelensky was like, the result is clear. China has effectively monopolized refining for most critical minerals, while the rest of the world depends on it for a much-needed supply. China is listed as the dominant refiner for 19 of 20 materials analyzed by the IEA in their Global Critical Minerals Outlook for 2025, making up roughly 70% of the global processing capacity overall. Elon has a new aluminum-based battery better than lithium. Oh, that's cool. Cindy says, I love Vance. Zelensky stinks. Awesome. That's kind of what I saw. Their stock goes down massively before every iPhone announcement, then rebounds, and then some the next day. Has been doing it since the 80s. I really need to take advantage of that myself. You're talking about Apple? Apple we're talking about, or what we're talking about? How dominant is dominant? The numbers illustrate the scale and variety of China's concentration. Data from 2024 shows China as the leading producer or processor of roughly 99% of gallium, 95% of magnesium, 83% of tungsten, 79% of graphite, and over 69% of all rare earths. For battery materials, Chinese firms account for an overwhelming share of manufacturing capacity, giving China control over the upper and middle parts of the battery supply chain, even though much of the raw materials are sourced elsewhere. Put simply, control of smelters and refineries is the choke point. Analysis from the United States Geological Survey shows how China's share rises dramatically from mining to processing. Many minerals that are mined in other countries are still processed into a refined product within China. Yeah, they want to get away from the fire starter lithium. Samsung and their batteries that take silver are going to run circles around everything else other than requiring silver. Could be. Probably. That clear advantage lets China policy shifts ripple quickly through the global supply and pricing, a growing threat for the West. In fact, China has already weaponized its stronghold on the industry in ways that have triggered both concern and action from the United States government. Over the past couple of years, Beijing has imposed a series of export restrictions on critical minerals that have sounded alarms in Washington. These controls immediately tightened global supply for various essential materials, including gallium, germanium, silver, graphite, and certain rare earths processing technologies. He says, there is always future battery technologies they flaunt to raise stock prices. Actually, real-world performance and adoption rates are unknown. Lighter and charged in a third at a time. I wonder if boron can be packaged for battery use. New power plant going to use boron. I wonder. You think Elon is using them in the most expensive Teslas? This caused semiconductor and defense firms to scramble for alternatives while exposing how dangerously dependent manufacturers are on Chinese supply. These actions have shaped how Western governments view critical minerals. What were once perceived as normal commodities are now seen as strategic assets crucial to national defense. U.S. officials have become increasingly vocal about reliance on China for critical minerals and the associated risks, prompting government action to reduce exposure. These maneuvers include billions of dollars of investment into domestic production, executive orders empowering the Defense Production Act to boost U.S. mining and refining, and coordinated international initiatives to strengthen supply chains outside of China. Meanwhile, while Western governments work to diversify away from dependence on Beijing, it's the private sector that is moving most of the world's critical minerals. The raw materials that feed Chinese smelters often move through the world's major commodity trading houses. China is leading 57 out of 64 high-tech industries and shows no sign of slowing down. Yeah, well, China just steals, man. China doesn't develop anything new on its own. All it does is just steal shit. Look at all the stuff they develop. It's just stolen from someone else. That's all it is. You hear a lot of stuff on YouTube. Samsung solid-state batteries. Oh, let me see. I'll pull that up next. These traders, including commodity giants like Mercuria and IXM, source raw ores from Africa, South America, and Australia, and then sell them into markets structured around Chinese processing. As long as that remains an industrial norm, the West will face clear obstacles. Many of these firms are deeply embedded in China. Mercuria, for example, has carved out a business operation in China that is legally separate from their main Geneva-based entity. The company has set up a number of Chinese-based subsidiaries to directly engage with Chinese valuable energy sector and secure long-term energy and gas deals with notable state-owned enterprises. This allows Mercuria to integrate massive China-based operations with its international trading network. Beijing also may have been given its vote of confidence to the firm when ChemChina, one of the country's largest state-owned companies, purchased a 12% stake in Mercuria back in 2016. The benefits of having a heavily involved within the Chinese dominant industry and energy environment are clear, but the unpredictable geopolitical risks associated with it are less so. IXM, too, has been a notable player for the Chinese side of industry. The trading arm of China's molybdenum, XX was directly controlled by a major Chinese mining conglomerate and plays a central role in supplying cobalt, copper, and other critical minerals into Chinese processing chains. That's because to have a business in China, a CCP official has to be a partner. Yeah. The firm has built a global network of offices and logistical infrastructure to move resources from Africa to South America into Chinese industrial markets, making it key conduit between foreign resource extraction and China's downstream dominance. Such arrangements makes these international trading houses both suppliers to and partners with Chinese processing. With the U.S. and its allies now seeking the concentration of mineral refining capacity in a single country as a vulnerability, traders deeply entrenched in China are now seen as bringing more risk than security. If the United States is serious about diversifying away from Chinese dependence and to protect its defense industrial base that sits atop a critical mineral supply chain, it must be cautious about doing business with Chinese traders deeply entrenched in Chinese state-owned enterprises and political influence. For the West, securing critical mineral supply without reliance on China requires more than just sourcing mines in friendly countries. It requires alternative processing capacity, substantial long-term supply agreements, and coordination between policymakers and private traders who still move much of the world's ore. All for annexing Canada for the greater good. That's why we need to annex Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Nunavut, Northwest, Yukon territories, and eastern BC, plus Greenland, and make them U.S. territories. We need our own supply chain. Sounds good to me. Until these pieces are in place, Chinese smelters and refineries will remain the world's primary mechanism for transforming raw materials into products used for defense and high tech. And while that remains the case, the rest of the world will have to navigate through the geopolitical risks that are brought on by Beijing's mineral dominance. So yeah, that's a problem. It's a major problem. It's a major problem to let China be in control of this stuff. And the reason China isn't, because China is willing to do things and not care about the environment. And let's be clear, all this stuff, the refining, the smelting, all this stuff is very dirty. And so all the green people get upset. That's why China does it, because nobody can complain in China. Oh, yeah. Oh, they improved on design shared with them, not stolen. Who the fuck shared them with them? That's called industrial espionage. I mean, come on, Terry. Are you that fucking dumb that you don't think China has stole everything? Did you see China's stealth jet that looks exactly like one of our jets? Everything that has been stolen. I mean, the fact that you are saying that makes me really wonder, what are you're actually what, a CCP shill? Are you a member of the CCP? Is that who you are? Because that's what you sound like. You sound like somebody who's in China, pretending to be in the Philippines. This report says there's a critical role of rare earth elements and strategic applications ranging from the energy technologies and advancing electronics to aerospace and defense. So this is the report that the people are reporting on, basically. This whole report talking about what they need to do. Rare earths need financing overhaul as China threat looms. Chinese export controls on rare earths could hit economic activity in the U.S. and Europe by $3 trillion. Yet, limited access to financing and market volatility are holding back investment and diversifying supply. Demands for rare earths are projected to increase by 50%, driven by development of electric vehicles. Yeah, demand for rare earths is projected. China holds 60% share of the rare earth mining market and 90% of the refining market. Yeah, China steals everything and still can't master quality. Okay. The Chinese have stolen intellectual property and reverse engineered it. They have been caught in the process. That's their innovation. Yeah. If these rare earth export controls were implemented in full, the economic value of the downstream production at risk would be $6.5 trillion per year for countries outside of China. I guess maybe, let's see, Terry, what would happen if the U.S. stopped buying all the plastic garbage that China makes that they pump in through Walmart and these other places? China would be underwater and the people would be eating fucking sawdust in China. Although the investment required is dwarfed by the potential economic cost of supply disruption, the report found financing is constrained by structural costs and market factors. Anybody with a functioning brain cells and a sliver of historical sense knows that the West, especially the U.S., are China's R&D departments for decades. Yeah. Oh, that is part of being into international business, stealing ideas. Oh, I guess. Hey, what's up, Sunshine? So great to see you. Thanks for being here. Price discovery is hampered by a lack of overall liquidity and depends on spot markets centered in China. The market structure makes it difficult to develop key financing tools. The lack of a reliable spot market, particularly outside of China, complicates the creation of long-term supply contracts. Well, I guess they need to just establish it somewhere else. Like, why would these commodities not be sold at the fucking commodity markets, at the mercantile exchange? Policymakers in non-Chinese markets have attempted to increase financing to the rare earth sector. For instance, Australia's Critical Mineral Strategic Reserve and the U.S. International Development Finance Corporation's Critical Mineral Consortium. The Australian Export Credit Agency announced in December it will provide an additional $475 million for financing for Eneba on top of a 2022 government loan totaling $1.25 billion. Export Bank of the United States has shown intent to support the sector. However, export credit agencies and developing financial institutions face difficulties. If recommended, policymakers provide facilities that reflect the strategic and commercial realities of these projects, including through extended tenures, lower collateral thresholds, and co-financing across different parts of the processing infrastructure. Government should also consider financing commitments in developing markets with rare earth reserves or refining potential. I mean, that's what's got to happen. Let's be clear. They're going to have to start building some refineries here in the U.S. because you don't want to have them in another country that the other country can block or take control over. That's why you don't want to do it in Mexico or a different country because they could stop it from happening. All right, we got this. Mike Braun, who was a senator and who ran for governor, and he doesn't look too good. God, this guy looks old. Look at that. Oh my God. How did he get so old? Indiana governor has issued a gas tax holiday for 30 days. You never got notification, Sunshine? Oh my God, that's terrible. I think a bunch of other people did. A gas tax holiday has been declared by Indiana Governor Mike Braun. Braun suspended the 7% sales tax for 30 days. I'm declaring a gas tax holiday to give Hoosiers relief from the pain at the pump from high gas prices. Affordability is my top priority. Braun says he will revisit the gas tax holiday at the end of the 30 days if needed. Gas is averaging $4.13 a gallon in Indiana. Gas in R is around $4.18. I mean, so that's about 35 cents on that price. Pat Hacker says, me neither, Sunshine, but Jim said he was going early at the end of last night's show. I mean, did you guys have the bell clicked? Because, I mean, I did. You know what it could be? Because I actually started almost 15 minutes. I actually started the stream almost 15 minutes, almost a half hour early. So that might be why nobody got notified, because the show was scheduled to start at 7:15 and I actually started at almost 6:45 because Rob ended at around 6:45. Oh. Braun cited inflation and the Iran war for the higher prices. Braun is calling upon the retailers to pass on the savings to the consumer. He said the state will be patrolling the pumps. So that's good news. Braun suspends Indiana gas price tax to ease prices.
Governor Braun announced a gas tax holiday to give Hoosiers some relief from high gas prices. The gas tax holiday is a 30-day suspension of the 7% usage tax on fuel. The suspension is based on Governor Braun's emergency declaration today and could be extended if the emergency continues. Governor Braun called on gasoline retailers to deliver the gas tax directly to gas tax relief directly to consumers, and noted that the state will be patrolling the pumps, monitoring prices to ensure those savings are delivered.
This was just one thing that we can control, and the fact that it did go up abruptly over the last few months due to Iran, to me, the timing was right for it.
Governor Braun also called on the Attorney General to enforce protection from price gouging by retailers. The suspension of state gas tax could cost the state $50 million every 30 days. House Democratic leader Phil Giaquinta had this to say: I'm in favor of suspending the gas tax. However, it's been clear for a long time that Hoosiers are struggling, and it's frustrating that it had to get this bad before Indiana Republicans took action. State Senator Liz Brown also issued a statement saying, quote, I applaud Governor Mike Braun for giving relief at the pump as foreign affairs keep pushing oil prices higher. Our fiscal discipline and our reserves on hand give us the flexibility to suspend the state's sales tax on gas and pass the affordability measures on to Hoosiers.
Have to hit the bell and then all notifications. Yeah, sometimes too, I will tell you, it can help. If you're a member, I don't recommend doing this. If you're a paid member, I wouldn't unsubscribe because I think you might lose your membership. I'm not sure how that works. But if you're not a member, if you unsubscribe and then resubscribe and then recheck all the bells, sometimes it does something with YouTube. I don't know. I've heard that. Sunshine, you have to watch every last minute when Jim signs off. What? What does that mean? I don't know what that means. Did I do something wrong? Braun spoke on gasoline retailers to deliver to the tax relief to consumers, saying the state will be patrolling the pump. Well, that's good. Oh, look at that. Nice 55 Ford Thunderbird, 50,000. Wow. From the Hill, Indiana governor suspends gas tax for 30 days. Same thing from the Star Tribune over there. Indianapolis Star Tribune. Brown announced a 30-day break on gas sales tax. That's good news. And then this story, which I talked about earlier, Fed still forecasts lower interest rates this year despite Iran conflict. And Newsom ain't never going to suspend gas taxes. No, he's not. Never. Not going to do it. Not going to do it. Not going to do it. The more I think about it, the more Barnes has promoted his gambling shit, the greater his TDS has grown. Officials say the war in Iran may affect the labor market or consumer spending. Federal Reserve officials anticipate lower interest rates this year despite the Iranian conflict clouding the economic outlook, according to the minutes from the March policy meeting. Policymakers left interest rates unchanged at the March 17th, 18th meeting, keeping the target Fed funds rate between 3.5 and 3.75%. You never announce your next show until the very end of the show. Oh, well, yeah, you're right. Right before I end, I do say something usually. Like tomorrow is Thursday, so I don't know what's going on for tomorrow because Joe, I should usually stream with Joe on Thursdays, but I don't know if he's streaming tomorrow. I'll have to wait and find out because he said something he wasn't sure about if he was going to stream, on Thursday or not. So I don't know. So if Joe isn't streaming tomorrow, like I don't even know if Joe's streaming tonight. I haven't seen anything posted about Joe streaming tonight. So, but I don't know if he's streaming tomorrow either. So I'll have to wait and see what happens with that. I'll have to wait and see. So I have to wait and see what happens. But if, because I am going to stream tomorrow night, I just don't know. Joe said he wasn't streaming tonight. Okay. So I will be streaming tomorrow. If Joe's not streaming tomorrow, my show will be at like 9 or 10 o'clock. Although, you know what? Maybe I'll go early tomorrow. Too. Did you hear Bella right there? That was just Bella made that noise. That's crazy. Maybe I will go early tomorrow. If Joe's not going to stream, if I'll find out he's not streaming, then for sure he's not going to stream tomorrow. Maybe I'll go again. Maybe try to get another raid from Robert. Maybe. I don't know. Or I'll just go at 9 or 10. But I'll definitely be streaming tomorrow, and I will be streaming Friday. So it'll just be Friday probably will be early. Friday will probably definitely be early. Bella feels left out tonight. Yeah, she is. She's left out. I figured I'd pop her on to finish out the show. I don't think we're going to hit the goal. So we'll see what happens. Oh, well, I have to keep checking. It's okay. I'm used to it. Even standing, Bella barely moves. Yeah, well. So the meeting summary released on April 8th suggests that most participants believe the war now in its 6th week could require rate cuts if higher gasoline prices adversely affect consumer spending or the labor market. Most participants raised concern that a protracted conflict in the Middle East could lead to further softening in the labor market. Joe's not streaming tonight or tomorrow. Is that what you're telling me? Poor Bella sounded like pain. I wonder if someone in the administration noticed Barnes was leaking shit to bet on and cut him off, hence his sudden and severe hostility. Maybe. I mean, that would be something. Barnes knows that's illegal, I would think, right? He knows that it's illegal to insider information type of stuff. So the national average of gas is more than $4 a gallon. Let's pull this up real quick while we're sitting here. What is gas prices? Current gas prices. Let's see. They should have dropped some. Well, no, it says gas prices are down a little bit. Those gas prices are down a little bit. Not a lot. Not a lot. Nearly all participants agreed to leave rates unchanged. So this is the same thing. Fed officials foresee rate cuts this year despite war impacts. More Federal Reserve officials see possible rate hikes this year. Minutes show. So this is the opposite. Like this is the opposite of what everyone else says. Three other stories. CNBC. All right. CNBC says rate cut. All right. And then Epoch Times says rate cut. And then AP says, oh, rate hike. Like what? What are you talking about? All right, let's do this story then. Samsung's silver solid-state battery, a game changer for the global silver market. He thinks Saturday he might stream. Maybe. Yeah. Thanks again for the news. Jim, got a bedtime routine now. Thanks for not killing yourself. Hey, thank you, Genome Editor. The only person I've ever known who said thanks for not killing yourself was Koof. Are you Koof? Follow the money. Yeah. Samsung's pursuit of next-generation battery technology has led to a breakthrough in all solid-state batteries that incorporate a silver carbon composite layer in the anode. This innovation, first detailed in the 2020 Nature Energy paper and advanced through ongoing development, promises superior performance over traditional lithium-ion batteries. In late 2025, Samsung SDI has confirmed progress towards commercialization. I've expired pennies. Don't pay for anything. No, it's from Dick Masterson. Okay. Yeah. If you follow the money, it always reads to a rich person or the government. Yeah, well, that's something that Koof always chimes in on Dick's show. Is that thank you for not killing yourself. La 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 loo 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 loo. Okay, sorry about that. Bella bailed? Did she? Oh, I just saw her. Where'd she go? Oh, I can fix it. I have the technology. All right, see? In other words, London. Maybe. Bella bailed, yeah. There's a plausible explanation for Candace's extremism. If one were to have a chance to become queen, what would that be willing to do or say? Probably. Bella needs attention. Yep. So the Samsung's SDI confirmed progress towards commercialization with the prototypes demonstrating exceptional metrics and plans for mass production. Silver is always better. Key features of Samsung's silver solid-state battery. Their design replaces flammable liquid electrolytes with a solid, often oxide or sulfide-based electrolyte, enhancing safety by replacing risks like thermal runaway and dendrite formation. Bella's right there. You don't see her? You must be behind a little bit. Energy density up to 500 watt hours per kilogram, nearly double the 270 watt hours a kilogram of mainstream lithium ion batteries, enabling smaller, lighter packs. Range approximately 600 miles on a single charge for an EV application. Wow, that's a lot of miles, 600 miles. With the Windsors reeling, the farmers might be after the throne. Oh, maybe. A charging speed, full charge in as little as 9 minutes or 80% in a similar time frame. Wow. Lifespan up to 20 years, over 1,500 cycles with minimal degradation. These claims position the technology for super premium EVs initially, with the broader adoption potentially focused on cost reductions. Samsung is also collaborating with partners like BMW and Solid Power on validation projects. So, I mean, here's the thing. Silver prices are up. Silver is over 80. What is silver at? $85, $90 an ounce now? So, I mean, it's not gold, but silver's already in a structural deficit, with industrial use dominating demand. Global silver mine production in recent years hovers around 820 to 850 million ounces annually, while total demand exceeds 1.16 billion ounces. driven largely by solar panels, electronics, and EVs. Samsung's battery requirement requires silver in the AGC anode to stabilize lithium metal and prevent dendrites. Estimates suggest that 5 grams of silver per battery cell, up to 1 kilograms per typical 100 kilowatt hour EV battery pack. So that's 2.2 pounds. So that's a lot. I might get an EV if these batteries work out. No, that number is not a typo. 32.15 troy ounce of silver will be required for each and every Samsung EV silver solid state battery pack. So yeah, so that's 32. So that's almost like over $3,000 just in silver. That's like $3,000 just in silver. Shawshank Redemption. Yeah. Granted, this website pushes silver futures, so a grain of salt and all that. Aluminum does seem like a better option if doable. Yeah. Global EV production is projected to reach 20 to 30 million units annually by late 2020s. Silver recycling from batteries is limited in the short term due to the long lifespans, and new mining supply grows slowly, often as a byproduct of copper, lead, zinc. I mean, here's the thing, too, you got to think of. If these batteries are actually that good and they last that long, it's not like you're going to have to keep getting more and more and more. So you're going to have to just be building them. It'll be a slow buildup until eventually, and then once the batteries start coming offline, you'll start being able to recycle the silver. Because did you guys know that the Manhattan Project, for the Manhattan Project it was either, I can't remember if it was either the uranium or the plutonium to do something to produce to separate and refine it to make it stronger. They had to use like 750,000 tons or something, or 750 tons or something like 750 metric tons of silver to make the windings for some kind of motor. You believe it was the plutonium? It was one of the two. I know it was in like where was it? Like, yeah, they got the silver from the Treasury. Like, it came from the Treasury, and then they had to like send it all back. They ended up losing like, I don't know, like a couple 100 pounds or something, or a couple 1,000 pounds. They never got back or something. Silver spot prices traded as high as 69 per ounce, and then up sharply from 30 to 32. This has got to be an old article because silver is up over 80. Oh, that's a cool story. All right. On to this story now. If you notice, I've already gone over 2.5 hours. I'm gonna slip. There was some slippage. They did try to get a bunch of it that they ended up because they like ended up having to shave stuff and different shavings and stuff when they were drilling into things, doing stuff, so they were losing silver. But they that's what they used for the windings on something. I can't remember. Pam Bondi refuses to attend Epstein Files deposition despite the subpoena. House Oversight Committee won't be holding a deposition for former Attorney General Pam Bondi this month about her handling of the disclosures. The Department of Justice has stated Pam Bondi will not appear since she is no longer Attorney General and was subpoenaed in her capacity as Attorney General. The committee will contact Pam Bondi's personal counsel to discuss next steps regarding her scheduling for deposition. Well, yeah, if she was subpoenaed if they subpoenaed the Attorney General, she's not the Attorney General. This isn't Bella's regular schedule. She might prefer to be with the kids. Yeah, she probably wants to be with the kids. That's probably what it is. Yeah. Imagine transporting a ton of anything. Yeah. They transported trains, and they were very guarded trains and stuff like that. You can look into it. There's a whole story about it online. You could find them. There's like a whole documentary talking about it and the request. Funny, most of us could get rich off most corporate slippage. Yeah. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche told reporters at DOJ headquarters on Tuesday that he and Bondi had already answered every single question asked by the oversight panel members for a couple of hours on a voluntary basis last month. What happens now that she's a former Attorney General and that there's a subpoena out there is, I think I'll leave it to Chairman Comer and others to figure out. Oversight Committee has been probing the DOJ's investigations of Epstein and his convicted accomplice Ghislaine Maxwell, subpoenaing several witnesses who had held federal law enforcement leadership positions. An ounce of gold slippage is $5,000. Yeah. Those have included former Attorney General Bill Barr, former South Florida U.S. Attorney Alex Acosta, who secured a 2008 plea agreement with Epstein for state charges of soliciting prostitution for a minor. Bondi is a crook. I don't doubt it. Acosta later served as Trump's labor secretary in the first term, but Republicans and Democrats on a panel have also called for current cabinet officials to testify. We are urging Chairman Comer to publicly reaffirm that Bondi is still legally obligated to appear for a deposition, said Representative Nancy Mace. The subpoena was written for her name, not her title. The American people deserve to know if information about Epstein and his associates is being withheld. Release the Epstein files. That's why they don't allow us near the slippage. Yeah. Stetson Law alumni is requesting to revoke her awards, etc. Oh. Crash Bandicoot. Yeah. Something Wall Street Hydro dams. Was that what it was? It was. Oh yeah, it was for the generators for the electricity to create the electricity. That's what it was for, right? The electricity for to power something, and so that because copper was being for make the nuclear stuff is right because copper was being regulated, like was very hard to get at the time. It was like restricted, and then they figured they could use silver instead, and worked out better. But the only place to get the silver was from the Treasury, because at the time during World War II, silver was not a restricted item type of thing where they weren't using it for wartime production, but copper was being used for all types of wire and different stuff and radios and yeah. So Representative Rob Garcia, the top demon rat on the Oversight Committee, said if Pam Bondi doesn't testify, we'll hold her in contempt. Well, you can try. Former President Bill Clinton and ex-Secretary of State Hillary Clinton were deposed earlier this year to answer questions about their relationship after being threatened with contempt of Congress proceedings. Bondi's ex-husband, Garrett Barnes, was an attorney for the Epstein Charity Foundation in West Palm Beach around 2002, 2003. Wow, that's very interesting. So Barnes, the guy who hates Trump, used to be married to Bondi? Wow, that explains a lot. I didn't know Barnes was married to Bondi. Barnes Bondi. Subpoenas for the Clintons were backed by bipartisan votes, though some House demon rats advocated against the contempt motions before the first couple agreed to appear. Yeah. More than 3 million files have already been released. 3 million files have already been released by the Justice Department. Draft prosecution documents, victim interviews stretching back more than a decade before Epstein's arrest in July 2019. The 66-year-old money manager was found dead in his Manhattan jail cell, allegedly, while awaiting trial on sex trafficking charges. Bondi was one of Epstein's girls. She seems kind of old to have been one of Epstein's girls. I mean, she's like, Bondi's in her 60s. She's the same age as Epstein. So, Barnes is a typical Floridian cook. We have thousands of them. A senior Justice Department official previously told the Post that no third party or clients of Epstein were likely to be charged, and there was no evidence Epstein blackmailed his associates. Not Robert Barnes? Are you sure? Are you sure it's not Robert Barnes? That would make a lot of sense. The assessment matched a memo released by the DOJ that had sought to end the questioning about the investigation of Epstein and Maxwell. But Congress later passed a law signed by Trump on November 19th that ordered the so-called Epstein files to be released. Thousands of photos and other records highlight the lavish lifestyle the financier enjoyed and the rich and influential politicians, business leaders, and celebrities and academics in his company. Epstein was doing his thing going back to the early 80s. Well, yeah, but I think in the early 80s, Bondi was already in her 30s. Right? It says Pam Bondi was married to Robert Barnes. Robert Barnes, not Garrett. Don't forget, Epstein is one of many. I'm just messing around with everybody. I know it's Garrett Barnes. I'm just messing around. I'm just having a little fun with names. You're saying she was in her 20s in the 80s? Bondi could have worked for his predecessor. Well, that's possible. That's possible. Hi, Ginger. You're very late. Jim is wrapping up. Hey, Jim. How you doing? Great to see you. Bondi won't appear for oversight panel. Bondi won't appear for April 14 deposition, oversight committee's probe. Bondi won't appear for House depositions next week. We got this story, which I thought is just troubling, very troubling. The Epstein case is like a hydra. I seem to sense some intense dislike for Robert Barnes in this forum. No, I like Robert Barnes. He's great. I don't like that Robert Barnes started attacking friends of Viva's, like friends of the channel type of thing. He went after Eric Hunley. He went after Mark Gruber. He's gone after a bunch of other people. That's all. Just don't. Barnes made it personal with people where it didn't have to be personal. Nobody made it personal with Barnes. Robert is quickly losing credibility with me. Yeah, that's all. That's all I say. Her ex is on that list. Oh, wow. All I would say about Robert Barnes is he shouldn't be making it personal. Viva likes him. I don't know how long that'll last, considering that, I don't know. You can't keep attacking people. That's all I'll say. California Supreme Court orders the sheriff to pause the election fraud probe. So the California Supreme Court says, no, don't count those ballots. Do not count those ballots. No. Don't find no proof. Just love Viva. Yeah, Viva's a great guy. I don't know. Riverside County Sheriff Chad Bianco was ordered by the California Supreme Court on April 8th to halt its investigation into the 2025 election fraud allegations so the judges can review the legal challenges his probe faces. I still like to watch Viva and Barnes, but I don't agree with everything. I don't agree. You shouldn't agree with everything that anybody says. I hope you guys don't all agree with everything I say, because sometimes I say stuff that's just crazy, just to say it. But I'm usually joking. Yeah. Know some rider says anyone who jumped onto war crimes for bombing bridges train is either a moron or purposely being one. Yeah, I agree. Totally agree. Barnes still does a lot of good defending Amish farmers. Oh, yes, I totally agree. The stuff he did for Amos Miller seemed great. And, he's done some other stuff. He's looking for controversy like Candace. I think so. And it says, Bianco, Republicans running for California governor, seized more than 500,000 2025 election ballots after allegedly receiving complaints from locals. Then last month, he seized an additional 1,000 boxes of election materials. Nero says, wait, what? Jim says stuff? My only exposure to Barnes is from his live stream at Viva on Sunday nights. He has negative things to say about Trump. Yeah, no, he has. But why? What happened that all of a sudden he flipped and has negative things to say about Trump? Very weird is all I'm saying. Life of Difference says, your crazy shit is what makes you great. Local election officials told the County Board of Supervisors that his decision to take the ballots was unfounded. California Attorney General Rob Bonta, a demon rat, asked the court to step in and stop the investigation, saying that Bianca did not have the authority to take the ballots. Nelson Ryder says, I usually apply Hanlon's razor, but Barnes is a college-educated lawyer. How can I assume in confidence? With Barnes, I would more say it's like a Schrodinger's cat type of thing. We don't know if it's alive or dead, but if we open up that box, we'll figure it out. Yeah. He and Jones called for 25th Amendment him the day before yesterday. Utter clown show. Denying transparency. Yes. That's what they're doing. Bianco seized another 426 boxes of ballots last week. The top court ordered Bianco and his team to pause the investigation in November and preserve all seized items. Like, what do they think? He's going to destroy the items? Today's decision by the California Supreme Court reins in the destabilizing actions of a rogue sheriff, prohibiting him from continuing his investigation while our litigation continues. What the fuck are you afraid of? I don't understand. What are you afraid of? That they're going to find out you guys cheated? Like, I don't get it. Epoch Times has commented Bianco's office for a comment. Bianco's career in law enforcement extends back 30 years. In 2018, he was elected as the sheriff, coroner and public administrator of Riverside County. So he's in the superposition of being a grifter and not being a grifter. Maybe. I don't know. Good question. What? Didn't you go out already? You're outside? All right, sit down. Wait a minute. I'm almost done. Governor Gavin Newsom, a demon rat who may be eyeing a presidential bid as he exits the current seat, applauded the April 8th ruling by the court. Bianco only has 3 jobs. Is he a real Jamaican? Jamaican made crazy. Today's decision is a victory for democracy. How is it a victory for democracy to prevent people from actually seeing if there's a problem with the fucking ballots? Does anyone else realize how upside down, weirdo, retarded this is to say this? The sheriff is supposedly a rhino. Supposedly, but still, this is just nuts. He's truly a fine man. He's the one who watched his once great state has gone to hell, Trump wrote about Steve Hilton. So yeah, because Trump endorsed Hilton. Trump made his endorsement and his decision about the race, about the future of California. All right, everybody. Well, I would like to go a little longer, but I have to take the dog out. Supreme Court pauses the election investigation. Now she's laying down there. I guess she didn't have to go out after all. What is she doing? She's driving me crazy, this one. I am voting for Hilton. He is happy. He is happy the court told him to stop. It seems like it. How much do you feed Bella? Bella gets 1 cup of dog food a day. That's it. 1 cup. That's it. You could play a video for us. All these firsts against the wall leftists always say, I watched as my village burned. Do any of them have integrity? Thanks for showing up in Third Rail Fight. Barnes seems disgruntled, is acting like a petulant child. I've subscribed to Vivian Barnes for 6 years now and just shaking my head. Yeah, I mean, I think Barnes thought he was going to get a position maybe in the government. Maybe he thought he was going to be picked to be part of the DOJ or something. I don't know. I was very happy to learn that Donnie On from Donnie On Direct is actually on her way to D.C. to take a job. Oh, no. I see what it is. The cat's under the bed. Bella sees the cat. Bella sees the cat under the bed. That's what she's doing. Watch. She's trying to get at the cat. Give her 2. Bella's just trying to say it's too early for her to work. Yeah. Anyway, all right. So, Hanlon's razor. Don't describe the malice, which you can easily describe the total incompetence. Part 2. Viva Fry. Yeah, could be. Let me see what else we got here. Okay. I guess I could play a video real quick. Okay. Anyway. All right. Anyway, you know what? I think I'm going to wrap it up. We didn't even come close to the goal tonight, and Bella's got to go out. Blame everything on the cat. I'll see everybody tomorrow. Either early at 7 to pick up a raid from Robert, or at like 9. So, but I want to thank everybody who was here. Please remember to hit the like. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. And please come back tomorrow for Jim to tell you the news.